In a world torn apart by war, humanity fights a losing battle against the endless horde. It's hard to believe that just 1 year ago, I was still one of them, a human. But now, I stand before my legions as the Lord of Monsters. It all started a decade ago, when dormant monster genes began awakening in the human race. Once those genes activated, the transformation was absolute, turning people into monsters. Their minds would be consumed by an insatiable hunger, controlled by some unknown consciousness. That is the story of how I became what I am today. A monster, and an accomplice to the destruction of the world. But no one ever considered that those who turned might have a shred of humanity left. And as another beast attacks, I prove them wrong, shielding the innocent from its wrath. But just then, a girl with crackling purple energy steps up, confidently telling everyone to leave this to her. She stands alone, a defiant figure before the colossal, flame-wreathed monster. As her friends call out her name, Shinkun, she focuses her power, ready for the inevitable clash. Yet when their attacks meet, she senses something strange. He's hesitating. She desperately calls out, pleading with him not to let the mutation completely consume his mind. For a brief moment, the colossal demon actually pauses, a flicker of conflict in his glowing eyes. Shinkun watches in disbelief, realizing he's truly holding back against her. A spark of hope ignites within her. A mindless monster would never act like this, and inside that beastly form, Hes touched, she still won't give up on him, even now. But the sentiment is lost, as a feral roar rips through the air, his monstrous instincts flaring back to life. Her hand meets his, a silent standoff between the girl and the beast she's trying to save. And in that moment, he finally understands she never once gave up on his humanity. Tears of relief stream down her face. She thinks she's finally gotten through to him. With a hopeful smile, she welcomes him back, but he gives a desperate warning he's at his limit. He can feel it slipping away as his monstrous creations begin to stir behind him. Their primal roars echo in his mind, fueling the beast he's struggling to contain. He screams her name, a final, desperate plea for her to keep fighting his inner demon. But it's too late. He can't control the monster anymore, his true self swallowed by rage. She hears her name whispered one last time, a pained farewell from the man she once knew. And with a roar of pure agony, the beast strikes down the only person who still believed in him. In that single, shattering moment, her world, and his mind, broke apart. The beast stands triumphant, having struck down the only person trying to save him. But even as she falls, her hand reaches out in a final, desperate plea. Her voice echoes in his head, begging him not to let the monster win. And seeing her broken form reflected in his own monstrous eyes finally snaps something inside him. The soulless, glowing blue of the beast's gaze begins to waver. A flicker of humanity returns, a pupil forming in the chaotic energy. He looks down at the girl on the ground, his voice barely a whisper as he remembers her name, Jiyu. But as he regains control, his own monstrous creations swarm in to finish the job. A protective fury ignites within him, and he turns his rage upon his own army. With a single, devastating swing, he unleashes his fury on the swarm. But it's too late. The mindless creatures are already descending upon the girl. He shatters one with his bare hands, a desperate attempt to clear a path. As more spectral horrors appear, he roars his hatred for all monsters who destroyed this world. He meets their charge head-on, his fists crashing against their ethereal bodies. But these new enemies are different, and their relentless assault begins to overwhelm him. He refuses to accept this, fighting back even as his form starts to disintegrate. His consciousness fades into darkness, his last thoughts filled with regret. And then, he jolts awake, screaming Ziyu's name, his mind reeling with confusion. He looks in the mirror, coughing, wondering why he's holding a bottle of cologne. He touches his face, his mind struggling to accept this human reflection as his own. His eyes land on a plastic bag, a strange, mundane anchor in his sea of confusion. Then he sees the receipt, and the date sends a jolt through him. June 15th, 2025. He knows this day all too well. It's the day before his genetic testing. The day before he was branded with the monster gene, ostracized, and treated like a ticking time bomb. But his dark memories are shattered by a woman's voice from the shower, teasingly asking about the other names he's been calling. He takes in the hotel room, a slow realization dawning on him he's been given a new life. A flustered blush creeps onto his face as he glances at the silhouette behind the glass. Suddenly, a sharp, insistent knock at the door breaks the strange atmosphere. He turns, his thoughts immediately snapping back to the one person who mattered, Jiyu. He glances at his phone, his expression hardening with resolve. This time, things will be different. The messages are from Jiyu, playfully teasing that his side chicks know he's in a hotel and are probably waiting outside. But he only sees her face, memories flooding back as he makes a silent vow to protect her in this life. He knows he can't change the monster gene inside him, but he swears he will control it completely this time. With a full year before his gene was supposed to awaken, he planned to make those who controlled him pay for everything. He thought he had it all figured out, until a sharp pain erupts from his chest, and glowing blue marks snake up his arm. His hand twists and contorts into a monstrous claw. This shouldn't be happening. The mutation is a year too early. Then it dawns on him an awakening can be triggered by extreme emotion, and the shock of his return must have been the key. Just then, the woman from the shower steps out, her voice filled with concern, asking what's wrong. He looks up, half his face already warped and monstrous. Looks like his grand plans just got moved up. He quickly turns his head, trying to hide the grotesque transformation spreading across his face. Forcing it back with sheer will, he knows he can only suppress it for so long. The gene's hunger needs to be satisfied before it goes on a rampage. But not like this. Not anymore. He grabs his jacket, determined to clear the romantic debts his past self racked up. He looks her dead in the eye and crushes her hopes, calling himself scum and saying they were nothing more than friends. And she's not the only one. He steps out to find a whole room of them, announcing that it's over for all of them. The women are stunned, but one with pink hair absolutely erupts, screaming that she's waited too long for him to just leave. In a flash, they're all over him, a desperate swarm of hands and voices pleading for him to stay. He shoves them back, finally yelling the dangerous truth: he's a monster gene carrier, and he could kill them all by accident. But as he bolts down the corridor, they just chase after him, shouting that they don't care what he is. He escapes into the night air, running without a second thought. He knows better. They're all liars. He remembers how quickly they all vanished when they learned his secret. All except one. And there she is, Jiyu, the only one who has ever waited for him. She teases him about his broken heart, offering some medicine for his promiscuous nature. But he's done playing games, cupping her face and promising no more waiting, no more regrets. Leaning in close with a dangerous glint in his eyes, she gets flustered, asking what he's trying to do. But something inside him awakens a deep, visceral thumping in his chest, as the monster gene stirs with hunger. For a terrifying second, the monster inside claws its way to the surface, his eye glowing with primal light. He pulls back, forcing a smile and telling a confused Jiyu that he's just hungry and needs to eat. He dashes off into the street, promising to find her after he's dealt with this, leaving her calling after him. As he walks alone, he reflects on the grim reality. Only 5% of people are carriers like him, a fragile dam holding back total chaos. He knows society's so-called morality is a lie. They'd kill anyone with the gene out of pure fear. But right now, his own monstrous hunger is all that matters, and his eyes lock onto a potential meal. Just then, an explosion rips through the commercial district. Another mutant attack has begun. The street descends into chaos, with terrified civilians caught in the fiery aftermath, screaming for help. As hulking monsters corner a man, our hero simply stands by, a dark, unsettling smile on his face. The cornered civilian stares in disbelief, wondering why this hooded figure is just watching him die. Then, a desperate, cowardly plan forms in the man's mind. With a savage shove, he offers our protagonist to the beast, hoping to save his own skin. But the monster just looms over him, its predatory gaze fixed on something else. It completely ignores him, and a chilling realization dawns. It thinks he's one of them. The cowardly civilian can only scream in horror, his mind unable to process why he was spared. But our hero knows. As monsters tear through the city, he recalls the one thing keeping humanity from extinction: the transcended awakened fighters who formed their own special unit, the Extermination Department. He scoffs, deciding to leave this mess to them as agents below erect a massive stone wall. Elsewhere, 2 department members gauge the chaos, worried that their gifted fighter, Lynchy, is still trapped inside. Suddenly, a nearby building erupts in a violent explosion. We find Lynchy, his arm gruesomely torn off, a heavy price he paid to rescue 3 children. But there's no time for relief, as more snarling monsters swarm him, hungry for a kill. With blood dripping from his wound, his golden eyes narrow with cold focus. He unleashes his power, Metal Flame, sending searing beams of light to incinerate his foes. He's already lost an arm, his pride as a gifted fighter completely shattered. But just as the beast lunges, a flash of red smashes into its jaw with explosive force. Lynchy can only stare in disbelief, a rank 2 monster, defeated with a single, bare-fisted punch. This mysterious transcender continues his assault, effortlessly caving in another monster's skull. He turns back with a smug grin, commenting on how the place needed a little tidying up. The injured agent tries to warn him not to underestimate these creatures, but his words feel hollow. The man in red simply tells him to get the children to safety and leave the real work to him. Then, with a casual, "Hey bro," he leans in close, leaving Lynchy completely bewildered. "Sorry about this," he says with a menacing grin, explaining it's not good for others to watch him eat. and with a swift chop to the neck, the extermination department's ace is out for the count. One of the last monsters sneers, mocking this low-level human for trying to steal its prey. But the man in the red cloak simply smirks, telling the beast it has things completely backward. His arm erupts into a claw of bone and blue flame. He's the hunter, and this thing is the prey. He lunges forward, his power swirling into a vortex that tears into the monster's flesh. The creature can only scream in disbelief, recognizing the energy as the legendary flame of the Lord. With a predatory grin, he explains that he was once their lord, and he has the experience to prove it. The monster wails in protest as he begins to absorb it, shrieking that they are the same species. Its brethren are enraged, calling him a traitor, trying to usurp the power of their mighty king. He pauses for just a moment, a flicker of curiosity in his eyes as he hears that title. Then he scoffs, deciding that this so-called king sounds like the perfect next meal. With a final shriek, the monster is devoured, its essence absorbed into our hungry protagonist. Meanwhile, outside the district, the tide of the battle has mysteriously shifted. One of the agents from the extermination department notices something strange. The monsters feel weaker. His comrades agree. The creatures have lost their coordination, making them easy pickings. A junior agent asks his superior for an update, confused by the sudden change. The veteran smashes another monster, realizing what this means. Lynchy must have killed the rank 2 leader inside. Confident that the immediate threat is over, he decides they need to go check on their comrade. They burst through the ruined doorway, calling out for Lynchy. And what they find is a scene of carnage. The rank 2 monster is gone, but so is Lynchy's arm. His colleague kneels down, mockingly congratulating him on saving the kids and stopping the horde at such a great cost. Clutching his mangled shoulder, Lynchy grits his teeth, telling them he wasn't the hero here. He's furious, explaining that some idiot knocked him out right after killing the monster. The memory comes back to him in flashes. He saw a man in a red hood literally eating the monster's corpse, his arm burning with an eerie blue flame. Hes sure he'd recognize that face anywhere. The junior agent is floored. His superior processes this. If this guy was another monster, why would he leave a witness? The veteran's expression darkens. Someone with the power to kill a rank 2 monster who also interferes with their mission is a threat that needs a warrant. Meanwhile, the very same person calmly discards his blood-soaked cloak in an alley. While the department profiles him as an arrogant, unregistered menace, he just strolls through the city, feeling incredibly full. He lets out a satisfied burp, impressed that he evolved straight to rank 2, even if it was the easiest stage. His only concern now? Getting home, and he's pleasantly surprised his apartment building is still standing. This scene reminds him of a past incident, when he staggered home at 3 a.m. to find the entire community in a blackout. It wasn't a normal power outage. A girl named Jiyu had her initial awakening, absorbing all the electricity in the area. In her uncontrolled state, she accidentally destroyed her apartment complex, killing 136 people, including her parents. But that was then. Back in the present, he checks his phone. It's just past 11:30 p.m. He still has plenty of time, he thinks, until a sudden realization hits him. Why are the streetlights out now? The answer lies in a nearby apartment, where purple lightning crackles around a girl's trembling hand. It's Jiyu, and her powers are surging once again, locking her body in place. The raw terror of her first awakening flashes before her eyes as the energy builds. She's completely trapped, unable to move or even speak, the memory of her parents haunting her. This feeling, it's an uncontrolled awakening, and she knows there's nothing she can do to stop it. She pleads with whoever is outside to stay away, terrified of what she's becoming. The fear of endangering her parents again is the only thing she can think about. Feeling her control slip completely, she desperately calls out a single name. Suddenly, her panicked expression shifts to one of pure shock. Climbing through her window is Shinkun, calmly telling her he's here now. He cuts off her questions with a sharp look, insisting that she just has to trust him. Seeing the unwavering confidence in his eyes, she can only nod in agreement. He moves in and grabs her, warning her not to scream and wake her parents. As he takes her hand, she feels the wild energy being drawn into his monstrously transformed arm. He quickly lets go, explaining he can't maintain contact, leaving her stunned but finally stable. Without another word, he grabs Jiyu and leaps straight out of her high-rise window. Her mind goes completely blank with shock. As gravity takes hold, she can only scream, convinced she's about to fall to her death. But then something whips past her, anchoring itself to the building with a solid thud. In the next instant, Shinkun has her securely in his arms, landing them safely on the rooftop. He calmly explains that devouring that rank 2 monster unlocked a brand new ability for him. The ability in question? Tentacles, which he used to grapple them right up the side of the building. With a smooth swing, they touch down, far above the city streets. But her power is still surging, and he warns her she's about to electrocute him to death. He forces her to the ground, yelling at her to release all that pent-up energy into the sky. With a final, desperate scream, Jiyu obeys, letting the violent energy surge. Her eyes glow white as the power completely overwhelms her senses. A massive pillar of purple lightning erupts from her, tearing into the night sky. He watches the last of it dissipate, relieved they made it in time. As she recovers, her eyes fall on his left hand, now a monstrous, clawed appendage. He casually explains that he's mutated, but luckily, he's suppressed it to just one arm. She lunges forward, slapping a hand over his mouth, telling him he's an idiot. He just scoffs at her panic, which only makes her more frantic for his safety. He gently pulls her close, quieting her fears with a simple, sincere look. Of course, he'd tell her because she's the only one in the world he unconditionally trusts. She playfully jabs at him, but her attention is quickly drawn to a bright light in the night sky. He knows that's no falling star. It's a surveillance drone, and it means they've been found. Just as predicted, two figures from the Genetic Research Institution arrive on the rooftop, seeking the source of the power surge. Without a moment's hesitation, he steps forward, calmly claiming that he was the one who released the energy. The lead researcher seems satisfied, instructing his assistant, Xiaolu, to prepare a reagent test for transcenders. He assumes the boy must have also awakened powers to survive the blast, and asks for a simple blood sample. But when they test the girl's blood first, the vial erupts in a blinding flash, a reaction far beyond anything he's ever seen. Now it's his turn, and he coolly tells the nurse she's wasting her time testing a powerless person like him. Just as he expected, the test shows only a faint reaction, but the researcher orders him brought in for more tests anyway. Suddenly, he freezes, a memory flashing in his mind. The test isn't for heroes, it's for mutations. He finds himself in the Nanyu Genetic Research Facility, a place he never wanted to be. The nurse can't help but mock him as the scanner beeps, revealing the lowest transcender gene count in history, a measly 1%. She notes how strange it is that he has such a powerful physique with so few genes, her eyes lingering a little too long. But he's not interested in the flattery, asking if he can just put his shirt back on. His mind races, was this 1% from his new monster, half, or from devouring another? It doesn't matter. This is his golden ticket. He asks Nurse Xiaolu if 1% is even enough, and she smiles, telling him the dean accepts anyone with a trace of power. She offers to handle his enrollment paperwork herself, a friendly gesture he cautiously accepts. But just then, the doors slide open as other researchers rush past, buzzing with unbelievable news. They're all scrambling to see the attribute test for a new world's number 1, someone who just broke the record. And it finally clicks for him. He was so worried about his own test that he missed the chaos Jiyu's results had caused. Sure enough, the entire observation deck is packed with researchers, all glued to the glass. They're watching Jiyu inside a detection chamber, taking 500 volts of electricity without even flinching. He slips into the crowd, a faint smirk on his face as the others gasp at her 95% transcended genes. One nurse recalls a previous prodigy with 89% genes who could only handle 1,000 volts, so they decide to push it. The voltage climbs past 800, but Jiyu just stands there, looking utterly bored by the whole ordeal. It hits 1,000 volts, and the researchers erupt in cheers, completely blown away by her power. But it keeps going 1,200 volts, and their excitement turns to pure disbelief, wondering if she's even human. At a staggering 2,000 volts, the technician has to ask if she's even okay. She just smiles back, coolly informing him that she doesn't feel a thing. The number continues to skyrocket past 2,800, leaving the researchers to theorize that power must grow exponentially after the 90% mark. The dial hits 3,000 volts, and the terrified technician finally asks if maybe, just maybe, they should stop now. But Jiyu shakes her head. She explains, she's absorbed all this new energy and is about to lose control. Raw power erupts from her body as she warns them she might accidentally destroy the entire facility. That's all the motivation he needs, frantically mashing the off switch, while noting her upper limit is completely unknown. Outside, our protagonist tries to push his way in to help, but a guard blocks him, citing the insane electrical charge. But their argument is cut short by two men in lab coats who stride down the hall, ordering the door open. The guard recognizes the older man as Dean Fan, who casually dismisses the danger and says his companion can help her. With a heavy clank, the reinforced door to the testing chamber slides open. The younger man, Shizai, saunters in, but Jiyu quickly warns him to stay back, her power dangerously unstable. He just smirks, claiming he's arrived just in time as a ball of fire ignites in his palm, ready to help. His fire, he claims, is the perfect solution so she won't accidentally hurt anyone. With a slimy smile, he introduces himself as Fan Shizai, her future classmate at the institute. Outside, our protagonist glares through the glass, immediately seeing through this guy's pathetic moves on his girl. Jiyu cautiously declines a handshake, warning him she's still crackling with dangerous, unstable energy. But Shizai isn't deterred in the slightest, smoothly brushing it off by saying they'll have plenty of time later. He decides to cut to the chase, getting to the real reason he came in here. He explains their new school group students into teams, before boasting about his own 90% high-quality genes. With a confident smirk, he formally invites her to join his elite team to secure the best resources. She seems to consider it, thanking him for the generous offer, only to cheerfully tell him she already has a partner, leaving him stunned. Shizai internally scoffs, convinced her partner's test results must be pathetic, and that she'll soon reconsider. But his smug expression vanishes as Jingkun enters the room, and Jiyu happily confirms they're a team. Just then, an imposing older man arrives, calling for Shizai and revealing their family connection. As he's led away, Shizai tosses one last look back, hoping she'll think about his proposal. Later, in an office, he complains to his uncle that they absolutely must recruit the 95% gene genius. His uncle's advice is chillingly simple. If an obstacle stands in your way, you remove it. And as if on cue, the dean receives a report on Shinkun's test results. The lowest in recorded history, a mere 1%. He confidently tells Shizai not to worry about such a weakling getting in their way. Meanwhile, Shinkun reveals a dangerous secret to Jiyu about the side effects of his mutated hand. It craves flesh to stop it from rampaging, and she just cheerfully suggests they can find plenty of bad guys to feed it. Shinkun tries to explain that her casual approach to feeding his monster hand is dangerously reckless. But their dark conversation is cut short when a nurse announces that Jiyu's parents have arrived. Completely missing his concern, she bounces over, excited to share her good news with them. Before she goes, she turns back with a warm smile, just happy they'll be classmates again. Jiyu thanks the nurse and heads out, leaving the poor woman a little flustered. After she's gone, Shinkun notices the nurse looks incredibly dejected and asks what's wrong. With a heavy heart, she has to deliver the devastating news. His school enrollment was rejected. His eyes flash red with disbelief. He was promised that anyone with awakened genes could join. The nurse collapses onto the bed, just as furious as he is, cursing the logic of the higher-ups. But she's not giving up, clenching her fist and vowing to help him apply again and again until it works. He just smiles, telling Nurse Yalu not to worry. He doesn't want her getting in trouble over him, but inside, his resolve hardens. He'll get into Nanyu Institute, even if it means using his monster genes. Just then, a vibration from his pocket breaks the tense silence. The nurse looks up from her phone, completely stunned they've changed their minds and are giving him another chance. His eyes narrow with suspicion. This is all happening a little too conveniently. Elsewhere, a fiery young man named Shizai scoffs, wondering what the higher-ups are possibly thinking. Hez furious they'd give some unknown a chance to participate in the last test. That test is a final lifeline for failing students, he fumes, not a welcome party for an outsider. His flames flicker into the shape of burning moths, a perfect symbol for his contempt. To him, no matter what our hero tries, he's nothing more than an insect to be crushed. A senior official calls Shizai over, coolly remarking on how annoying the moths have become. He then reveals that this whole last test was actually Dean Qingzhe's idea from the start. Shizai is told it's a political power play, a warning to them for having broken the rules. If our hero fails, the dean looks strong. If he passes, it's a humiliation for their entire faction. With a confident smirk, Shizai declares they'll just have to prevent him from passing. Then, the official agrees with chilling certainty. He won't pass. He scoffs that the boy's very nature that 1% of his gene bars him from their world, and they have absolutely no intention of ever letting an insect like him in. At a remote facility, their mission is set. Protect the testing equipment for the next 5 days. But inside, things are already going wrong, as one worker notices his colleague is acting strangely. The worker brushes off his colleague's concern, claiming he was just careless. But a quick glance at his phone reveals the truth. A 1 to million deposit has just landed in his account. His eyes gleam with greed. For this kind of money, losing his job is more than a fair trade. He reports to his boss. The background check is complete, and their target is a nobody with no connections. A cruel, satisfied smile spreads across the boss's face. The target is participant 18, a kid with a measly 1% gene compatibility, yet someone is paying 20 million for him to fail. With that kind of payout on the line, the saboteurs are determined to see this job through to the end. 5 days later, the trap is set, and the boss watches the monitors as an alert comes in. He's here. On the screen, a bewildered-looking kid gawks at his surroundings, completely out of his element. The boss leans in, ready to observe the unlucky bastard he's about to ruin. The boss scoffs, looking at the kid on the monitor. He looks like he hasn't eaten in days and will die instantly. And he's right, because our boy is so hungry his vision is starting to blur. All of his stored energy is gone, and a terrifying thought crosses his mind. The people around him look delicious. An announcer lays out the grim reality: 3 hours, 3 life, or death matches, and only 3 tickets back to the Institute. He pauses with a smirk, as if he almost forgot something important. There are 18 of you today, he declares, revealing the dean specially allowed 1 extra participant. Every single head in the room swivels to stare at the lone, scrawny-looking newcomer. The announcer grins, reminding them it's still only 3 tickets, and they'll have to fight monsters to get them. Immediately, the other participants are furious, convinced the test is rigged and deciding to use the new kid as monster bait. He hears their whispers, a faint smile playing on his lips. He's already made enemies, and that just means more food. A bead of saliva drips from his lip. His monster instincts are screaming, but he forces them down. He can't eat people. A smug worker leads him to testing chamber 18, and he can already tell this was all done on purpose. He glares at the man, whose feigned innocence isn't fooling anyone. The sarcasm is practically dripping off him. Running a hand along the gate, he immediately recognizes the scent of high-ranking transcender blood smeared on the bars. The worker is impressed, asking if he knows who he's offended, and our hero sighs it's the Fan family again. Leaning in with a wicked grin, the worker confirms his suspicions. All the monsters are being lured to this specific room. He cackles, explaining how unfortunate it would be if the chamber's only metal lock just happened to break. And as the gate slams shut, he's instantly surrounded by monsters, said to be 5 times stronger than a normal human. The worker's taunts echo in his mind, promising hell be torn to shreds, a delicacy for the beasts. But then, the man points, offering him a single, desperate chance at survival. Hess told there's an escape door right behind him, a safe path out if he gives up on the test. The worker grins through the bars, explaining how they don't want his life, just his spot. Everyone wins. With a final sneer, he gives him 10 seconds to forfeit before walking away. But as he turns his back, our hero calls out to him, stopping him in his tracks. He just wanted to clarify one tiny misunderstanding: he's not the delicacy here. The worker pauses, then smirks, muttering that they'll see how long that bravado lasts. He confidently strides back into the main control room, leaving the hero to his fate. He knocks on a private office door and is immediately told to come in. Reporting to his boss, he confirms everything is going smoothly, assuming their target is shaking in his boots. The boss leans back with a satisfied smirk, revealing the monsters were set to arrive in 10 seconds anyway. The worker bets his boss $100 that the kid will give up in 5 seconds. But the boss just laughs, raising the stakes that he'll be gone right after those 5 seconds. High above the testing arena, the ceiling hatch groans and begins to slowly slide open. A trio of ravenous, muscle-bound monsters roar as they peer down into the chamber. With the final test now officially underway, they leap down, landing with heavy thuds. The 2 saboteurs grin, ready to enjoy the show and begin their little countdown. But their jaws drop when they see the hero calmly walk out of his safe room. What is he doing? The 2 of them stare at the monitor in utter disbelief. On screen, the target just gives the camera a knowing, confident little smirk. Who cares, they decide. If he wants to die that badly, the monsters will gladly rip him apart. The monsters descend upon him, viewing him as nothing more than fresh food. But he'd almost forgotten they see him that way, because right now, an even deeper hunger is consuming him. Up in the control room, the saboteurs are baffled as the beasts just run right past him. While they're busy mocking his apparently worthless genes, he casually snatches the first ticket. The lead saboteur, however, isn't worried at all. He has an ace up his sleeve. He's counting on Wooyin, a boy who awakened a rare mental-type ability during a recent attack. And right on cue, Wooyin storms in, demanding the ticket from the dazed-looking outsider. He activates his signature power, unleashing a wave of pure mental intimidation. Leaning in close, he sneers, eager to see the terror on his opponent's face. But what he sees reflected in those crimson eyes isn't a person, it's a true monster, and he is absolutely petrified. Wooyin's mind completely shatters, unable to process what he just saw. He stumbles back, screaming at the horrifying aura that now envelops his opponent. The psychic backlash is immense. Blood streams from his nose as his own power turns on him. He finally understands this isn't a human. Has a monster far greater than any in this arena. This overwhelming presence doesn't go unnoticed, as the caged beasts suddenly become agitated. Forgetting their objective, the monsters turn their glowing eyes towards a far more interesting target. Wooyin flinches as the entire pack now charges them, but our hero seems completely unbothered. He casually steps in front of the terrified bully, a wry smile on his face. He knows the monsters are hungry, but unfortunately for them, he was getting hungry first. With a gentle touch, he reaches for the monster, promising this little snack won't hurt a bit. A monstrous maw forms on the palm of his hand, latching onto the creature's head. He plunges his arm deep inside the beast, a look of surprise on his face. Crimson energy surges from the monster directly into his arm, a satisfying meal of pure monster genes. He closes his eyes in bliss, thanking his brothers for the long-awaited feast. But his satisfaction is cut short, as his eyes snap open with a jolt. The entire pack of monsters now roars in fury, swarming to attack him instead. He looks genuinely annoyed he just took a tiny bite, and now they're treating him like the enemy? From the control room, the saboteurs smirk, convinced the brat is about to be torn apart. But Wu Yin is screaming in terror, yelling that you can't just kill a monster. Not like that. His eyes are wide with the horrifying truth of what he's witnessing. But instead of being torn apart, he meets the monsters head-on, smashing one right in its teeth. Wu Yin stares in disbelief. The boy is moving like their attacks mean nothing, toying with them. It's like he knows them inside and out, striking their weak points on pure instinct. Wu Yin knows one hit should be fatal, yet this newcomer is perfectly dodging and countering every move. Then, with a surge of energy, he plunges his hand straight through a monster's chest. A glowing monster core appears in his hand, and his own eyes flare with a strange light. Without a moment's hesitation, he rips through a second monster just as easily. Wu Yin realizes this can only mean one thing. This guy must be a veteran who has killed countless monsters. Up in the control room, the bribed worker starts to panic, asking his boss what they should do now. The boss simply puts his hands together with a sinister smile, telling him not to worry. With the immediate threats gone, our hero finds himself surrounded by the other test-takers. Their leader, Zhao Sheng, steps forward with a smug grin, accusing him of bribing his way in and demanding his ticket. Wu Yin, still reeling from what he witnessed, frantically tries to warn Zhao Sheng that this guy is dangerous. But Zhao Sheng just scoffs, calling Wu Yin useless trash for cowering before a fight has even started. He rallies the others, telling them to surround their target and take the tickets for themselves. Just then, another monster appears, but Zhao Sheng simply delegates, telling a bald underling to deal with it. The two assigned participants agree to ignore the beast and focus on the real prize, the guy who cheated his way in. They plan to just lure the monster away, seeing it as nothing more than a minor distraction. But then the bald participant gets a brilliant, and incredibly stupid, idea. He reasons that if this newcomer killed two monsters, the test must be rigged to be easy, and the monsters are just starved and weak. So, with a smug grin, the bald participant decides he wants to score a kill too, but his punch is stopped cold, his overconfidence shattering in an instant. The monster's hand clamps down on his face before he can even react, and with a single, contemptuous swipe, sends him flying across the room. Zhao Sheng watches, seething with disgust at the fool's incompetence. He dismisses the weak monsters and turns his glare back to the real prize. Lunging forward, he throws a punch, ready to teach this newcomer a lesson. But his fist is caught effortlessly, as our hero realizes he used the wrong hand. He thinks back to his left arm, now completely mutated and pulsing with a rank 2 aura. It was the same power he used to save Zhiyu, a tentacle with an 8-meter reach. Zhao Sheng smirks, convinced his strength is at least 10 times that of a normal human. He believes this one punch, packing the power of a rank 1 monster, will easily shatter this nobody's skull. So our hero decides to be gentle back, clenching his own fist for a light tap. The resulting impact sends a shockwave of energy through Zhao Sheng's entire body. Damn, he realizes he still overestimated himself, putting way too much power behind that gentle punch. He checks on his downed opponent. A little panicked he might have actually killed him, but thankfully, he's still breathing. Leaning over the unconscious bully, he smirks and asks if anyone else would like to try and take his ticket. But just then, screams erupt from behind him as the monsters finally turn on the other participants. Zhao Sheng, barely conscious, sees his friends in peril and begs him to help, even offering to pay him for it. Finally broken, he grabs our hero's leg, surrendering completely and admitting the ticket is his to keep. Seeing their pathetic state, our hero sighs and reluctantly agrees to step in. But damn it, this whole situation is just one big pain in the neck. Meanwhile, in a hidden control room, an operator fumes at the monitors, calling the participants useless. His boss steps up, deciding it's time to apply a little more pressure. He gives a chilling order. Release monster numbers, 21 through 23. The operator freezes, knowing anything above 20 are peak. Rank 1 monsters, this kid is going to die, for sure. But the boss isn't worried, calmly explaining that he suspects the boy has already awakened his powers. Releasing stronger monsters will just give him the push he needs, and the path is already open. Then comes an even more sinister command. Destroy the main and backup power to the testing grounds. The worker's face drains of all color if the power goes out. What happens to all the other monsters? His worst fears are realized. Without power, the electric doors are already failing. And if the main release gate opens, dozens of rank 1 monsters, including 10 peak-level beasts, will swarm the arena in an instant. The participants will be torn to shreds, with no chance to even hit their emergency escape buttons. The worker frantically backs out, telling his boss he can't do it, this is a death sentence if they get caught. But the director calmly reminds him this order comes from the infamous fan family, and they don't take kindly to failure. He leans in, a sinister glint in his glasses, promising he'll make sure the worker avoids any punishment. As an added bonus, he offers 10 million and a clean escape from the city. All he has to do is say yes. Greed washes over the worker's face, and with a sweaty smile, he agrees to the plan. Far below, the test subjects stand in the center of the arena, completely oblivious to the hell about to be unleashed. With a single, devastating punch, he effortlessly obliterates the creature before him. The other participants can only stare in awe, with Zhaosheng marveling at his incredible strength. Despite his swollen and bloody face, Zhaosheng gives a thumbs up, promising to pay the 50,000, even from his own pocket. One of the other girls tries to drag him away to recover, but he just complains about his already broken neck. She then turns to their savior, bowing deeply to apologize for the trouble and thank him for saving them. Zhaosheng, ever the social butterfly, gathers his friends, inviting everyone out for a celebratory supper. Our hero just smirks, coolly rejecting the offer by saying he's already eaten. But in the next instant, his relaxed demeanor shatters as he senses a new, deadly presence. He screams a warning just as a massive monster materializes in the air, dropping right on top of the unsuspecting group. Zhaosheng looks up, his face a mask of pure terror as death plummets towards them. With his last bit of strength, Zhaosheng shoves his friend out of the way. The monster lands with a sickening crunch, reducing him to a bloody smear on the floor. His friends can only watch in absolute horror, screaming his name in disbelief. Even our hero and Wu Yin are caught off guard. The second round wasn't supposed to start yet. Monsters now swarm the arena floor, and the other participants realize the rules have changed without warning. He calmly assesses the situation. These are rank 2 monsters, far beyond a normal test. A cold realization dawns on him. They're going all out just to stop him from passing. Blood splatters across the lead monster as it stands over what's left of Zhaosheng. Panic sets in as one of the boys tries to pull the girl away, but she refuses to believe her brother is gone. The arena is chaos, and our hero can only curse his luck, trapped in the middle of a slaughter. Zhaosheng's sister refuses to accept reality, grabbing at the monster holding his lifeless body. With a desperate cry, she lands a futile blow against the creature's leg. The monster swats her aside without a second thought, and the pack begins to close in. Defeated, she collapses, tears streaming, as she apologizes to her brother for her weakness. A dark thought crosses her mind: if they can't live together, they can at least die together. But before she can give in, our hero snatches her from the jaws of death, calling her an idiot. He holds her close, mockingly suggesting that if she must die, it should be with someone good-looking. The girl is stunned into silence, his cold words cutting through her grief. But then his expression hardens. He promises he won't let the monsters eat her brother's body. With that, he yeets her across the arena, yelling for his bewildered friends to catch her. Wu Yin finally realizes our hero was talking to him, and a wave of pure panic hits. But the monster lord isn't paying attention. He's calculating his next move. He knows that if these things eat Zhaosheng, they'll evolve to rank 2, and he'll have to mutate his own arm to win. With a sigh, he leaps into the fray, casually brushing past the monsters who tell him to back off. The sister watches in stunned silence, unable to believe he's fighting 3 of them just for her brother. He lands right in the middle of them, calmly pointing out that they don't seem to see him as an enemy. The lead monster growls, its patience wearing thin as it clutches its prize. With a smirk, he places a hand on its chest, politely asking if it could hand over the food. In a flash, he yanks the body free, turning to the other 2 monsters with a mocking grin. He tosses the body aside and offers himself instead, promising they won't be hungry after a taste of him. And just like that, Zhaosheng jolts awake, the blood on his face a stark reminder of how close he came. His eyes focus on the unbelievable sight. The strange man is single-handedly holding back the monsters. The pain finally hits him, and he collapses in a rather undignified heap on the floor. But a familiar voice cuts through the haze as his sister rushes to his side, overjoyed to find him alive. She cheekily tells him he owes their savior a huge debt, one he should probably pay with his body. Zhaosheng snaps at her to stop playing around, insisting they need to escape this testing ground immediately. She panics, realizing the ticket they need was left behind, but he knows they can't afford to go back. Grabbing her arm, he tells her the situation is too strange, and that she just needs to trust him. She reluctantly agrees, helping her injured brother towards one of the testing chambers. Meanwhile, back in the chaos, our hero casually explains to the last monster that rank 1s like it barely even count as a snack. And that's all before he even bothers to use his Lord's flames, he casually mentions while crushing its chest. If he really went all out, he could kill one of these pathetic creatures every 10 seconds, though the cost is a bit steep. He coldly lays out the math. To evolve to rank 3, he'll need to devour about 100 of them, so he politely asks them to just line up and let him eat, a chilling request that hangs in the air. But suddenly, the grinding sound of a release hatch opening catches his attention. The test is advancing. Elsewhere, Zhaosheng reaches a door, telling his sister that their lives are more important than any future this test offers. He slams his hand on the activation panel, a desperate gamble for freedom. But instead of opening, the room plunges into darkness, and his sister cries out in confusion. She points with a trembling finger, telling her brother to look at what's behind the gate. It's not an exit, it's another testing ground, swarming with a fresh hell of even more monsters. Meanwhile, in another area, the test devolves into a desperate brawl as one participant is decked for his pass. The freckled kid hits the floor, clinging to the ticket that represents his only chance. He's immediately swarmed by the others, each one screaming about their own dreams of power and riches. For this kid, it's about revenge on everyone who ever looked down on him. He glares back with fiery eyes, absolutely refusing to let go of his future. But his human squabbles are cut short when a hulking monster violently crashes the party. Suddenly, it's not just one, it's an entire horde, erupting from the shadows and tearing through the crowd. He stumbles back in terror, his mind reeling. This can't be right. There shouldn't be this many monsters. Up above, a lone worker watches the massacre, admitting he's the one who destroyed the backup power, trapping them all. He blames a man named Shinkun for his actions, but his smug rant is cut short when he realizes someone is watching him and laughing. The figure in the pit simply looks up, a cold, knowing smirk playing on his lips. The worker scoffs, still laughing, declaring that his perch is the safest place in this whole death trap. In fact, he flips him the bird, boasting that he should be thanking him for the 10 million he just earned. While our hero gets eaten, he'll be leaving the country tomorrow to live a life of carefree luxury. In response, the young man casually flicks his wrist, sending a swirling ring of dark energy into the air. The worker just blinks, completely unimpressed by the seemingly weak toss. He bursts out laughing, mocking the pathetic throw that didn't even come close to reaching him. But his laughter cuts short as that same dark energy latches onto him from behind. He screams in pure terror, realizing too late that he was never safe at all. His safe spot becomes his grave as he's dropped right into the waiting maws of the hungry horde below. The terrified worker now pleads for his life, even offering up his blood money. But our hero just gives him a cold smile, casually stating he can't even save the others, let alone a traitor. In fact, he muses, the guy should be lucky he doesn't accidentally push a monster his way. With a feigned oops, he gives a nearby beast a little shove, his face twisting into a malicious grin. The worker's final, desperate no is swallowed by the sound of tearing flesh as the horde descends. After their bloody feast, the monsters seem to stir, a strange power growing within them. One lifts its head from the carnage, sniffing the air, its glowing eyes locking onto a new scent. The beast growls out a single, chilling word, traitor. Suddenly, the entire pack turns on him, their collective thoughts echoing that all traitors must be destroyed. Surrounded, he realizes his fatal miscalculation. Rank 2 monsters can smell that he's devoured their kind before, and they are not interested in a deal. From the observation deck, the saboteur watches our boy get cornered, deciding it's time to end this little experiment. He smirks, knowing those monsters have evolved after eating 30 participants. Not even a 3-star transcender could survive this. With his target's fate sealed, he calmly walks towards the heavy isolation doors. All he has to do now is close the final gate connecting to the second level. He places his hand on the console, absorbing the locking mechanism's energy into his palm. With a series of heavy thuds, the reinforced metal bars slam into place. The man turns away, a satisfied grin on his face, believing it's all over. He enters the control room, stepping over the unconscious bodies of the staff he took out earlier. But as he walks past, a faint blue energy begins to crackle around the 2 slumped figures. Slowly, groggily, their eyes begin to flicker open. Suddenly, their boss storms in, smashing a console in pure rage, demanding answers about the blackout and the locked doors. The 2 dazed researchers quickly explain it wasn't their fault. A worker named Lee attacked them and sabotaged the facility. But their boss is having none of it. accusing them of slacking off and ordering them to restore the power immediately. The junior researcher stammers that a full system restore will take at least half an hour. His colleague has a chilling thought: what if the saboteur released monsters? They should call the extermination department for help. The boss scoffs at the idea, worried more about the huge cost and the weak excuse they'd have to give. He shuts down all debate, his voice cold as he tells them to just fix the damn power. But as his staff scrambles to obey, a cruel, knowing smile spreads across his face. Half an hour. By then, all that will be left inside are the monsters, as desperate screams echo from behind the sealed, blood-splattered doors. And deep within the testing ground, our hero stands surrounded. The grim reality setting in a blackout. No cameras, locked doors, this was a setup. But instead of fear, a cruel smirk crosses his face. He should thank them for this opportunity to finally transform without any worries. He calls out to his fallen comrades, asking them to watch him one last time as he bids them farewell. With a roar, he unleashes the flame of the Lord, a torrent of blue energy that incinerates the monstrous horde around him. He lets out a satisfied burp, realizing he ate way too much. The energy he absorbed from them was immense. It must be because they ate so many unawakened participants. But he feels no guilt he'll consume anything to get strong enough to fight the demon god. A surviving monster howls in rage, branding him a traitor for turning on his own kind. He just glares back, telling it to shut up. He clarifies that he wasn't talking to the monsters. He was addressing the original owners of those stolen bodies. With pure venom in his eyes, he calls them parasites and foreign intruders, vowing to kill them all and destroy their so-called king. But as his fury peaks, he feels a sudden jolt. A new power surging through him, his left hand is evolving again. He realizes that with all the energy he's absorbed, his evolution to rank 3 has begun. His past life's knowledge floods back, explaining that this evolution starts in the brain, forming a network. But a horrifying realization hits him. This connection is a two-way street. If he can use this network to search for other monsters, they can also use it to find him. He fights to sever the link, to cut himself off from the hive mind. But it's already too late. As the backlash leaves him weakened, he hears voices nearby, other survivors. But these errant allies, they're vultures, already fighting over the belongings of the man who died to save them. The group's leader attacks one of his own, sneering that their alliance was only for convenience. He shamelessly shifts the blame, saying the dead man only got hurt because he tried to play the hero. And now, seeing our protagonist kneeling and vulnerable, they turn their greedy eyes on him. And we see a flash of memory: Zhao Sheng, bleeding out but refusing to stand down, ready to protect their savior. His friend Wyan had pleaded with him, screaming that charging in would be a death sentence. But Zhao Sheng was resolute, his eyes fixed on the bullies as he asked Wu Yin if he could sense it too. Back in the present, the leader of that pack of hyenas smirks down at our kneeling hero, demanding he hand everything over. With his lackeys behind him, he raises his blade, threatening to just take what he wants by force. A greedy, vicious smile spreads across his face as he swings down for what he thinks is an easy kill. But in a flash of red and black, a monstrous, armored limb erupts upwards with devastating power. One of the cronies is frozen solid, splattered in warm blood, his mind completely blank. He stares up in sheer disbelief. His boss, Brother Tian, has simply vanished from existence. All he can see is the colossal limb of the man they just tried to rob, and the dawning horror of their mistake. His mind struggles to process the sight, stammering out the name of a legendary beast, an earth dragon. The creature's jaws unhinge with a deafening roar, revealing rows of teeth ready to shred steel and bone. The other bullies, trapped and helpless, can only scream as the overwhelming presence descends upon them. In an instant, they are torn to ribbons, their pathetic power play ending in a shower of gore. The last surviving crony stares, his eyes wide with a dawning, soul-crushing memory. He's seen this monster before. A terrifying news report is flashing through his mind. It was the calamity that wiped out an entire town, a beast so powerful that even elite transcendence could only drive it away. A bitter laugh escapes his lips. They were fighting over scraps, and now they're all going to die. With a final, brutal strike, the dragon ends his miserable existence without a second thought. But our protagonist grits his teeth, realizing he's made a terrible mistake by connecting to the monster network and attracting this thing's attention. He braces for impact, knowing this is going to be a long, grueling fight. But the sheer, bone-crushing force of the dragon's tail slams into him, sending shockwaves through the chamber. He can feel his monstrous arms straining. The difference in raw power is just too immense to handle. In a desperate move, his mutated hand transforms further, its jaws clamping down hard on the beast's flesh. And then he sees the glowing core and realizes with dawning horror this isn't the dragon, it's just one tentacle. But to understand how things got so bad, we have to rewind just 2 minutes. outside the trial grounds. In the Guardian's waiting area, anxious families pray for their children's success and safe return. But one girl, Jiyu, scoffs at their prayers, reminding them that in this era, power is the only true safety. Her sharp gaze narrows. She felt a sudden power fluctuation from inside the trial grounds. Something is wrong. She approaches the guards, introducing herself as a student who just sensed a major anomaly. Her words send a ripple of panic through the other families waiting nearby. The guards are instantly on alert, wondering how some random girl could possibly know that. One steps up, telling her to stop talking nonsense or they'll be forced to throw her out. He gets in her face, demanding to know who she is and how she even got into a restricted area. But just as he berates her, a wave of sinister energy washes over the entire room. Every parent in the waiting area suddenly clutches their chest, crying out in inexplicable pain. The guards are no exception, collapsing to the floor as the lights flicker and an awful dread fills the air. Jiyu fights through the pressure, her suspicions now confirmed beyond a doubt. Ignoring the guards' weak protests, she makes a break for the inner doors. She bursts into the corridor, now heading straight for the entrance to the trial grounds. Her instincts scream that something monstrous is waiting just beyond these walls. Inside the control room, a senior official is ordering his team to restore power immediately. But the lead worker just smirks, planning to use the door as a shield and wait for backup. Hez snapped out of his lazy plan by Jiyu's sudden arrival, and he angrily demands she leave. She calmly introduces herself as a freshman with an electricity attribute, offering to fix the problem. He scoffs at her, mocking a mere student for thinking she could possibly have enough energy stored. Jiyu's eye glints with power as she explains that in a city, her supply is literally unlimited. With a surge of intent, she draws raw energy from the grid, flooding the room with purple lightning. The worker stares dumbfounded as visible electric particles begin to gather around his hand. A sharp, painful zap is all it takes to teach him he just made a very big mistake. The worker's jaw drops as it dawns on him this girl is the rumored prodigy with 95% transcendent genes. He starts to panic, realizing if she restores power, she'll open the gate to whatever horrors are inside. He orders her to stop immediately, trying to pass off his fear as concern for her unstable power. She just glares back, unimpressed, as he lectures her about destroying government property. He puffs out his chest, telling his maintenance team to remove this pest who is hindering their work. One of his subordinates actually pulls out a gun, warning her not to get cocky just because she's a prodigy. The gunman's hands tremble, but the lead worker is fully committed to this idiotic escalation. He points a finger right at her, threatening to end her if she dares take another step. But at that very moment, inside the trial grounds, the monster lord faces a blinding explosion of energy. His demonic arm intercepts the blast, and he notes with mild surprise that his enemy's attack can withstand the lord's flame. The energy tears through his monstrous flesh, leaving his arm shredded. He finally sees his opponent, a monstrous, multi-eyed earth dragon. Its attacks aren't just powerful. They're draining his genetic power, stalling his evolution to rank 3. The sheer scale is overwhelming. He has to find a way to evade those impenetrable defenses. In a flash of inspiration, he sprouts a razor-sharp tentacle from his own body. The skin is too thick to pierce, but he realizes it's enough to latch on. Using the tentacle as a grappling hook, he swings himself directly onto the massive beast. His plan is desperate. Use the Lord's flame to carve off some flesh and consume it. But as he prepares to strike, a sudden, horrifying thought freezes him in place. The dragon's body erupts with those same black teeth, turning its skin into a forest of blades. The sickening crunch of flesh and bone echoes as he's impaled from every direction. But even skewered on the beast's hide, he refuses to die, roaring as he unleashes maximum power. With a final, desperate cry, he pours every ounce of the Lord's flame into the dragon's body. The colossal beast shrieks, its insides burning as his gambit actually starts to pay off. Meanwhile, a smug worker muses about a certain girl with powerful genes, feeling that familiar, unsettling presence. His confidence shatters in an instant, replaced by pure terror as he whips out a gun. Panic takes over, and he blindly opens fire. One shot, then another, filling the air with the sound of his fear. But the bullets hang suspended in the air, caught in Jiyu's crackling purple energy field. She glances back, unimpressed, thinking how lucky she is that the terrified fool missed. But as she stands there, wreathed in purple light, he realizes it wasn't luck at all. It was a calculated move, a powerful magnetic field she created just by circulating her own electricity. This is the power of a 95% transcended gene carrier. She's practically inhuman. The worker can't comprehend it. Electricity isn't supposed to be an extension of someone's will. And even more terrifying is the fact that she's still standing, completely unfazed by the monstrous aura below. He suddenly remembers those with extraordinary genes have a natural resistance to the pressure from monsters. With the facility's power now restored by her own hand, the floating bullets around her shatter into dust. Her eyes narrow, her voice cutting through the silence as she orders them to open the door. Meanwhile, up on the second level, the director is in a full-blown panic about the system failure. He yells at his team to fix the power, only to be told that it's already back on. The director's mind reels. How did the maintenance team fix the power so quickly? Unaware of the sabotage, a young operator decides to open the main gate to get everyone out. The director screams for her to stop, but her finger presses the button without hesitation. He's too late. The order has been given. Down below, the massive doors begin to slide open, revealing the path to escape. In a desperate sprint, the boss races to stop the gate from opening any further. But Jiyu is already prepared, her fists clenched, ready for whatever comes next. As the opening widens, she doesn't see freedom, she sees the thrashing tail of the monster. Her confident expression melts into pure, unadulterated shock. Behind her, the workers can only stare in horror, their hope instantly turning to despair. The workers scream in terror, recognizing the legendary Earth Dragon from the news. But Jiyu's eyes are fixed on something else, a familiar face, Shin-chun. And there he is, riding atop the colossal beast, his monstrous arm glowing with power. Her disbelief instantly hardens into pure, unbridled rage as her own energy flares to life. In a flash of violet lightning, she unleashes her power, plunging the entire facility into darkness. The director is thrown to the ground, surrounded by crackling tendrils of her electricity. He can't believe it. The floor itself is conducting a lethal current, a testament to her power. Across the city, entire districts suddenly go dark, the power grid completely overwhelmed. At the extermination department, operators scramble as every alarm blares at once. Their commander calmly takes the call, already guessing it's the newcomer, Jiyu, losing control again. Aboard the rampaging dragon, he recognizes the crackling purple energy immediately. That's Jiyu's power. A savage grin spreads across his face. What a perfect, chaotic gift she's given him. But before he joins the fray, he decides to grab a little snack for himself. He leaps from the beast's back, his mutated hand aimed straight for the dragon's glowing core. With a brutal wrench, he rips out a chunk of its raw power, absorbing it into his own body. Now energized, he hits the ground running, shouting Jiyu's name amidst the destruction. But from the control room, the man behind the sabotage sees this chaos not as a problem, but as a blessing. The Earth Dragon's appearance has erased all evidence, giving him the perfect alibi to act. He rallies his researchers, ordering them to stall the dragon until the extermination team arrives. With everyone focused on the monster, his eyes gleam with malice now. No one can stop his real plan. Holding Jiyu close, he grits his teeth through the searing pain as his arm continues to mutate. The third stage evolution is surging, threatening to overwhelm his human form completely, but his senses scream as an attack flies straight toward them. With pure instinct, he throws up his monstrous arm, blocking the golden beam of energy. The sabotage boss appears, a smug look on his face, surprised his prey managed to catch that. But his condescending smirk instantly vanishes, replaced by utter disbelief. He stares in horror, demanding to know what kind of creature stands before him. Because in that moment, our hero's eye flashes with a brilliant, transcendent blue light. The boss stumbles back, witnessing an impossible power manifest even during a transformation. His scientific mind races, realizing this is one of the 5 major elemental attributes. None of the known transcendent powers, ice, wind, lightning, or even mental evolution, could explain this monstrous arm. The boss roars, questioning if our hero is even a transcender at all as his true attack begins. Golden energy lances burst from the floorboards around them. He decides he doesn't care what the boy is, so long as he dies right here. With a furious shout, the boss unleashes his full power. The spears slam home, impaling our hero as he shields the unconscious Jiyu with his own body. But his back erupts not with blood, but with a surge of crimson demonic energy. He looks up, the attack doing little more than fueling his rage and accelerating the change. The boss can only stare, his scientific mind crumbling. That arm, it's not something a human should have. The horrifying question finally forms. Is he fighting a man, or has he provoked an actual monster? The boss's eyes reflect the scene. His metal rods have pierced their target. But his victory turns to ash as he sees an impossible blue flame melting his attack away. A sudden, terrifying thought stops him cold. There's only one other explanation. But that's impossible. Only monsters of rank 4 and above can possess elemental attributes. The monstrous arm swings, unleashing a torrent of raw, untamed energy. Hez sent flying, screaming out, demanding to know just what the hell he's fighting. The boy doesn't look human, but he doesn't look like a complete monster either. A cruel smile creeps onto his face. He realizes he doesn't need to kill him quickly. All he has to do is stall. Let him rampage. The exterminators will arrive and put down the monster for him. But our hero grits his teeth. Evolving to rank 3 is proving far more difficult than he ever imagined. He realizes with dawning horror that this is the same power as Black Tooth. If he doesn't tame it now, he'll never be human again. With a roar of defiance, he swings the monstrous arm, unleashing its chaotic energy. The smug official raises his defense, confidently summoning a golden shield to block the attack. But his prized shield shatters like glass, and a crimson slash tears right through his gut. He stumbles back in disbelief, remembering the black spikes that had only grazed him moments before. How could they be this powerful? His shield can't block them, and he realizes he can't even hold on for a minute. The cold, hard certainty of his own death washes over his face. But then, a new, despicable idea takes root, and he changes tactics completely. A slimy grin spreads across his face as he taunts our hero, telling him that in his current state, he's nothing more than a monster. The exterminators are coming, he gloats, and they won't hesitate to put down a beast like him. The official continues his crazed rant, declaring that a monster is an enemy to all humanity. He sneers that everyone will want him dead, but his tirade is cut short by a flash of purple energy. He turns in disbelief to find Jiyu standing there, her hand crackling with power, demanding he stop. The man is furious, questioning why on earth she's siding with a creature like him. But with a glare that could cut steel, she makes her position perfectly clear. He is not a monster, he is Xing Kun, and with that, she blasts the official with a torrent of lightning. Inspired by her loyalty, our hero looks down at his own monstrous hand, his resolve hardening. If this world won't tolerate the existence of monsters, then he will carve out a bloody path for himself. He slams his hand into a fallen creature's corpse, beginning to absorb its raw power. But just as he does, a crimson beam of energy slices through the ceiling as a colossal beast arrives. The exterminators are here. He desperately shoves her back, yelling for her to stay away and save herself. He can't even be sure if he can ever turn his arm back to normal again. But Jiyu doesn't hesitate for a second, grabbing his monstrous arm and holding on tight. She looks him dead in the eye, declaring that she'll follow him, even if he's headed straight to hell. A faint smile crosses his lips. In the end, she's the one who's always there for him. The moment is shattered by shouts from above, as exterminators begin their rescue operation. Below, a maintenance chief rallies his men, planning to use 3 Earth users as a shield, but it's all a lie. His only real plan is to use them as bait and make a run for it. Before he can even turn, the beast strikes, tearing through the workers in a flash of gore. The researchers can only watch in horror as their human shields are obliterated in a single blow. With their director gone, the researchers realize they're trapped with the monstrous Earth Dragon. The beast's armored jaws grind together, charging up a devastating beam of red energy. It unleashes a wave of pure force, sending bodies flying and scattering the survivors. An immense pressure bears down on them, crushing their will to even stand. This is the end. One researcher looks up in horror as the monster prepares to fire again, knowing they can't even run. But through the panic, her eyes catch a flicker of movement. Something new has arrived. A lone woman stands there holding a bright pink pipe, a beacon of hope for the desperate staff. She coolly identifies the towering monster, an earth dragon, and doesn't even flinch. Her strange weapon begins to glow, crackling with an intense surge of blue energy. And with a mighty swing, she reveals her true motivation. This beast just interrupted her blind date. The researchers cry out in terror, certain her wild attack is about to wipe them out along with the monster. But the shimmering blade of water phases right through them, a stunning display of absolute precision. It smashes into the Earth Dragon, and they finally comprehend the power before them. This is a 4-star transcender. The beast roars, however, not in death, but in rage as its grievous wounds begin to rapidly regenerate. In a moment of dawning horror and awe, the female operator realizes exactly who has come to save them. She is Shang Guangsu, the strongest guardian of the institution, and she calmly tells everyone to leave it to her. Stepping forward, she orders the terrified staff to evacuate and brief the incoming exterminators on the situation. But elsewhere, inside the chaotic testing facility, a far more personal crisis is unfolding. Jiyu looks at our hero's grotesquely mutated arm. He can't change it back, not without some time. So she points him toward a cell to hide, promising to buy him every second he needs. As Jiyu yells for the exterminators, creating the perfect diversion, our hero hides in the shadows. He realizes he has to compress this raging rank 3 power to regain his human form. But then, a flicker of understanding this feeling isn't just monster genes. It's the 1% of transcended genes he received on his first day of reincarnation. A dormant power, now awakened and hungry, absorbing the genes he devoured earlier. He realizes he can use this to stabilize his chaotic transformation and control his own evolution. He'll start with the very foundation of his body, his bones. The raw strength coursing through him is far beyond what he'd anticipated. But his evolution is cut short as a massive black tooth from the Earth Dragon erupts through the wall. Just then, the exterminators arrive, their leader thanking Jiu for making their job so easy. That sudden crash sends a jolt of pure panic through Jiu. The agents are instantly on edge, demanding to know if another monster just appeared. Their captain quickly silences them, hissing that they'll attract the beast's attention. But Jiu's resolve only hardens. She'll follow him to the ends of the earth if she has to. She shouts a warning for them to be careful as they cautiously advance. And there he is, putting on an award-winning performance of a confused, recently awakened survivor. The agents breathe a collective sigh of relief, completely fooled as they begin securing the others. He feels the new power in his bones, a perfect copy of the dragon's tooth, yet still lacking. He overhears the captain on the phone, learning the Earth Dragon has conveniently retreated. But the beast didn't run. It's being held at bay by a 4-star transcender who looks utterly unimpressed. His mind drifts back to the source of his power, a mere fragment of some incomprehensible demon god. His path is set: accumulate strength, secure resources, and protect Jiu at all costs, hiding his true nature. A memory flashes, a vision of a city in ruins under a blood-red sky. He recalls a desperate battle against a monstrous demon wreathed in roaring blue flames. The memory of a lone fighter's terrified face is burned into his mind. Then, an even greater darkness descended, and a chilling thought echoes. He only has 1 year left. He snaps back to reality, the weight of that deadline settling heavily upon him. Jiu breaks the silence, asking him just what he's been staring at since they arrived at the academy. He coolly deflects, joking that he was simply repenting his sins by admiring the scenery. Her unimpressed expression says it all. She's definitely not falling for that one. He lays out the grim reality. The world they know is on a 1-year timer, and he has to become a 5-star transcender before it all goes to hell. Jiu nearly falls off her suitcase. A 5-star? She reminds him that 4-star is considered the absolute pinnacle of power. He just gives her a confident smirk, saying they'll just have to work harder than ever before, and not to worry, because hell help her. For a moment, she's taken aback by his sheer audacity. But then her expression softens. She trusts him. Well, mostly. With a cute pout, she adds that she trusts everything he said except for that nonsense about repenting for his promiscuous ways. The mood turns serious again as he sets a new goal. She needs to evolve into a 3-star transcender within a month, but she rightly asks how they can possibly get the resources without any connections. Just as he's about to answer, a booming voice calls out, "Big brother," and a group of students comes running over. It's the survivors from the final test, and their leader passionately explains that they only passed because of his aid. They owe him everything: their lives, their chance to study here, and with a deep bow, they pledge their undying loyalty to him as their new leader. After the dramatic declaration, the leader looks up with a curious smile, finally asking who this woman is by his savior's side. With a calm expression, he introduces the girl next to him as Jiu, who offers a shy little wave. The name instantly shatters the group's composure, their faces frozen in pure, unadulterated shock. They recognize her as the legendary prodigy, the strongest freshman in the academy's history. The leader's mind races, a wide, knowing grin spreading across his face as he connects the dots. He blurts out the obvious question: are the two of them a couple? Leaving them both comically speechless. The moment passes, replaced by a shared, deadpan expression that screams, "Absolutely not." Not wanting to deal with the hassle, he grabs their suitcase and starts to walk away. He dismissively explains they're just childhood friends, poking her on the cheek like an annoying brother. But the students aren't convinced, especially since the two of them seem to be sharing the same luggage. Seeing his chance, the blue-haired student steps forward, proposing an idea since they're forming a group anyway. He explains that the academy is holding a resource competition and suggests they team up, boasting about his spiritual sense. Yin cheekily adds that they might even be able to snatch resources from others, but his friend quickly screams for him to shut up. The group's leader is furious, accusing Yin of trying to get their new big brother into trouble. He grabs him by the collar, reminding him that newcomers with transcended genes are always the first to be targeted. And this year is especially dangerous, with a prodigy who has an 88% gene score leading the hunt against anyone under 50%. The leader admits with a heavy heart that he's a prime target, with his own gene score being a mere 39%. The young woman with them, Xiao Tao, is barely any better off at 41%, her face filled with dread. Even the confident Yin just scraped by with 50%, a fact that now leaves him sweating. Desperate, the leader turns back to our hero, promising they absolutely won't be a burden to him. But our protagonist isn't thinking about burdens. Hearing stealing resources, a predatory smile forms as he eyes his new followers' perfect bait. He explains to Zhu his grand vision. Turn these followers into powerhouses who would gladly remove any obstacles for them. With that decided, he turns around and announces they'll team up, much to the group's utter shock. The leader immediately objects, shouting that their new big brother doesn't need to pity them like this. But our hero shoots that down, claiming it's not pity he's teaming up with them because they're loyal and very useful. The leader's resolve completely shatters, and he breaks down into a fountain of grateful tears. As they walk away, the hero warns them that since they're on his team now, their humble goals are about to change. He leans into Zhu, dropping a casual, sinister thought. If someone accidentally obtained everyone's resources, wouldn't that make them the sole owner? Wu Yin overhears, and the gears in his head start turning. Something about this grand plan doesn't feel right. Trying to play it cool, our hero brushes off their concerns, suggesting they all head to the dorms before their first class. But as they approach the building, Wu Yin finally asks the question on his mind. Just how many transcended genes does he actually have? Our hero just smirks, telling them the answer will be a fun little surprise for later. They enter the lecture hall, where their new teacher, Bo Liang, introduces himself with a grim welcome. He lays down the law. Awaken your powers this year, or you're out. He then calls out Wu Yin, unimpressed by his weak-assed 50% gene count. The teacher's eyes scan the room, coldly reading out pathetic numbers 39%, 41%, a class of failures. Suddenly, the team's loudmouthed leader shoots up, proudly announcing his return to Teacher Bo. As the teacher dismisses the unawakened, the leader just laughs, completely missing the point and vowing to do his best. He leans over to our hero, explaining that this teacher's deal is to call anyone under 50% by their number, not their name. Meanwhile, Teacher Bo adjusts his glasses, remarking to someone that this generation of students is quite special. He announces to the class that the student with the highest transcended gene count in history is right here among them, and all eyes turn to Jiyu. But the real shock, he says, isn't the genius, but the fact that there's also a student with a gene percentage of only 1%. Teacher Bo wears a cruel smile, inviting the student with a 1% gene count to stand and introduce himself. A sly-looking student in the front row watches with interest, wondering who this absolute loser could be. The classroom erupts in whispers, students unable to believe someone could have a number that low. Our hero's new team leader looks on in horror, realizing that whoever it is, they're about to be bullied relentlessly. And then, our boy stands up with a defiant smirk, leaving his new friend absolutely speechless. The teacher is visibly stunned. A 1%er who's already awakened? This wasn't part of the plan. A glint appears in his eye as he adjusts his glasses, calling the boy, Xing-kun, to the stage to assist in a lesson. Xing-kun strolls down, coolly asking if there's a reward for his help, and the teacher promises an extra share of resources. But he warns him not to get too excited because a weakling with double the prize will become everyone's favorite target. The lecture begins, with the teacher explaining elemental powers, all while the entire class glares at their new prey on stage. The teacher explains that the first step is to learn how to store external elements within their own genes. By molding these genes into a perfect battery, he says, they will finally become a one-star transcender. And for his demonstration, he reaches for a prop with a smug grin. He hoists a heavy metal bar, explaining that a transcender's gene content limits how much they can control. With a sharp crack, he breaks off a tiny shard, claiming this is the pathetic amount a 1%er could hope to influence. He hands the piece to Xing-kun, mockingly telling him he can play with this for a while. But as our hero holds the metal, a stunning realization hits him: this is the very power high-level monsters evolve to gain. The teacher continues his lecture, explaining that everyone has a genetic chain that can mutate towards monster or human. He preaches that the percentage of transcended genes dictates their entire future, and that's just how the world works. He even points out the class elites, like Jiyu, who can withstand 3,000 volts of electricity, to highlight the massive power gap. Bo Liang continues, stating that a 100% carrier would be a god, while the weak are simply insensitive to the elements. But our hero cuts him off with a casual question, asking if the teacher meant something like this. A brilliant golden spike of energy forms in Xing-kun's hand, leaving the teacher utterly speechless. He can't believe it was his awakening, a 1 in a million fluke. Or is there more to this kid? Recovering his composure, Bo Liang decides to teach him another lesson: the overwhelming difference between 1% and 80%. He compares it to a 1 on 80 gang-up, a fight you just can't win. A tidal wave of golden energy erupts from the teacher, completely surrounding Xing-kun. Bo Liang smugly declares that weaker powers will always be crushed, telling the boy to learn his place. The other students watch in awe and shock, some smugly, others with genuine concern for the public beatdown. But instead of fear, Shinkun just smirks, his eyes glowing with a dangerous red light. But Shinkun remembers a different timeline, a moment where this same teacher sacrificed himself to save his students. A bead of sweat rolls down Bo Liang's face. Why is this? Why is he feeling pressure from a 1% carrier? Shinkun feels the golden energy wrap around him, amused by the teacher's attempt to intimidate him with his genes. Little does he know, Shinkun's genes have already devoured others and are backed by 99% monster power. Still, it's best to lay low for now. No need to attract trouble from the other students by showing off. So he puts on a show, flailing dramatically and crying out that he can't hold on. Admittedly, the acting is a bit much. Bo Liang sees right through it. He realizes with a jolt that his pressure had no effect, and the boy just let him win. While the class erupts in cheers for their awesome teacher, Bo Liang knows he barely saved his own reputation. He stares at the boy, a new understanding dawning. This kid has secrets, and he's smart enough to hide them. Clearing his throat, the teacher thanks Shinkun for the demonstration, ending the lesson on the school's brutal philosophy, winner takes all. With the lesson over, Bo Liang officially announces the start of the freshman resource competition. But before it can begin, a voice cuts through the crowd, calling out Shinkun specifically. This new challenger smirks, telling everyone he heard Shinkun plans to take all their resources for himself. He leaps from his seat to confront our boy, openly mocking his audacity given his measly 1% gene rate. He introduces himself as Yu Xiong, a water transcender with a whopping 85% gene count, sarcastically admiring Shinkun's effort. Then, he extends an offer, a special exception to let this weakling join his elite group. Yu Xiong is gathering all the top students, anyone with over 60% genes, to form an alliance of the strong. His real plan, however, is to use Jingkun to get to his friend Jiyu, the girl with the highest gene rate in history. With her on their side, he explains, they can consolidate all the resources from the weak, putting them to better use. Shinkun finally looks up from the condescending lecture, a slight smile on his face, and calls the entire idea hilarious, stunning Yu Xiong into silence. He calmly calls Yu Xiong out, saying that for all his talk, he's just another bully preying on the weak. The comment hits a little too close to home, and Yu Xiong absolutely loses it. He explodes, ranting that our boy is just 1% trash who only passed because Jiyu carried him. But Shinkun just smiles, knowing he has completely gotten under the guy's skin. Flustered and furious, Yu Xiong can only point and shout a pathetic "just you wait." He vows that his alliance of the strong will seize every last resource from the weaklings, to which Shinkun gives a goofy double thumbs up, wishing him the best of luck with his little plan. Even the instructor, Bo Liang, asks if he was trying to provoke him, but Shinkun plays innocent. Deciding to ignore the drama, Bo Liang adjusts his glasses and finally kicks things off. He begins the freshman resource competition, handing out tokens and giving 2 directly to Shinkun. The rules are simple. They have 1 hour inside the forest, and they are forbidden to leave. But as soon as the event starts, some of Shinkun's group try to leave to join Yu Xiong's alliance, only for Wu Yin to refuse. His former ally is furious, demanding to know why he's backing out now. Wu Yin explains that he has to be realistic. His gene rate is only 49%, and the alliance made an exception to let him in. The other student argues that Shinkun is strong, but Wu Yin dismisses him as just a 1% nobody. Besides, he never expected their leader to be so reckless as to challenge the entire alliance from the get-go. He's branded a traitor, but Wu Yin just calmly states that everyone has to choose their own path. And looking at the sheer number of powerhouses staring them down, it's almost understandable why Head lose his nerve. One of the bullies smirks, telling Shinkun to enjoy his last moments of laughter before their leader returns. Yet, our boy simply smiles back, thinking to himself that bullying the weak won't take long at all. The leader of the bullies scoffs at the accusation. This isn't bullying. It's just efficient resource management. And across the forest, we see exactly what that efficiency looks like as a lone girl runs for her life. She ducks behind a tree, catching her breath, thinking she's finally put enough distance between them, but a voice sneers from behind her, Yu Xiong, boasting that no one can hide when their bodies are 70% water. He envelops her in a suffocating sphere of water, but she desperately holds on, refusing to give up her token. He simply tells her to blame her own weak genes as the water fills her lungs, forcing her to finally submit. With her token secured, he leaves the defeated girl on the ground and immediately sets his sights on the next target. This isn't a one-time thing. He's a predator on the hunt, quickly overpowering another helpless student. And he's not alone. All over the training grounds, the strong are preying on the weak. The alliance is working in teams, brutally beating down anyone who isn't with them for their tokens. Just as Yu Xiong is relishing his hunt, he's interrupted by a calm voice, belonging to none other than Fan Shizai. Perfect. He smirks, ready to test if the rumored rich kid who backdoored his way in has any right to join their alliance. Shizai just smiles back, admitting he was thinking the exact same thing. But as a massive hand of fire erupts behind him, he asks if Yuxiong has the qualifications to be his underling. Yuxiong is enraged, blasting back with his own water technique, furious at this pampered young master's audacity. The two elements collide, but something is terribly wrong for the water user. Shizai's flames don't just resist, they completely evaporate his Black Marsh attack, leaving Yuxiong in stunned disbelief. Elsewhere, the rest of the alliance has finished their harvest, rounding up the last of the weak, who can only curse them. Their leader simply mocks them. This is a dog-eat-dog world, and they should have just been stronger. Now, they've herded everyone together, just waiting for Big Brother Yuxiong to return for the final reaping. Suddenly, the bully leader feels a strange energy in the air, recognizing it as electricity. His eyes dart over to Jiyu, immediately realizing the 95% gene carrier must be responsible. He won't let her get away with it, rushing forward to shut her down before she can act. But his punch is stopped cold, intercepted by an open palm that appears out of nowhere. It's our hero, effortlessly holding him back while asking Jiyu for a status update. She needs one more minute. The bully struggles, sweat beading on his face. He can't believe the strength of this supposed 1% weakling. Unseen by the participants, a senior researcher watches the massive energy surge from a nearby building. With a smug grin, he remarks that the institution's electricity bill is about to go way over budget. Back in the forest, our hero tells Jiyu that since they're exposed, she should just get ready to fry them all. The bully leader panics, but his own ally just screams at him to stop kneeling and take the guy down. Jiyu explains she can't fire, yet there's still one more target she needs to locate. Panicked, the bully leader screams for his entire crew to swarm and attack this monster. His goons psych themselves up, ready to unleash their awakened abilities all at once. Our hero asks who she's looking for, and Jiyu reveals she's hunting a guy named Yuxiong. A moment later, a bolt of purple lightning flashes through the woods. She's found him. With the bullies now defeated and crying on the ground, our hero addresses their former victims. He gives the goons a chilling warning. Don't run, you've all been marked by Jiyu's electricity. With a flash of determination, she unleashes the technique she developed in the previous timeline. Targeted thunderstrike rains down, filling the forest with precise bolts of purple lightning. And elsewhere in this chaotic exam, the arrogant water user Yuxiong finds himself on his knees before a researcher. He grits his teeth, roaring that mere flames will never be enough to defeat him. His opponent, Shizai, just smirks, amused by the challenge. With a simple gesture, he summons a colossal hand of fire that completely engulfs the boy. Yuxiong is frozen in disbelief. The flaming palm has grabbed him, and he can't break free. Shizai clenches his fist, wondering how his opponent's water powers are holding up now. The fiery grip tightens, crushing any hope of resistance. He casually asks if the boy can even withstand this for a single minute. Defeated, Yuxiong can only curse the unfairness of it all, realizing the power gap is simply too wide to overcome. With his opponent completely crushed, Shizai casually announces that he's passed the test. Yuxiong can only grit his teeth in frustration. How could he have passed when he couldn't even fight back? But Shizai simply explains that he's already a 3-star transcender, so just surviving his attack is a feat in itself. All these resources they're fighting over are meaningless to him. He already has everything he needs. He reveals his true purpose: to recruit promising talents like Yuxiong for the Fan family, offering a path to true power. Exhausted and out of options, the defeated boy sees the logic in the offer. He reluctantly agrees, reaching out his hand to seal the deal. But just as they're about to shake, a violent storm of purple lightning erupts through the forest, striking down other participants. Shizai is caught completely off guard as the energy arcs across the clearing, even zapping his own hand. The mighty 3-star feels the shocking current course through his body, his eyes wide with disbelief. Other participants aren't so lucky, getting fried to a crisp where they stand. A massive web of violet lightning tears through the dark forest, a declaration of overwhelming power. Shizai struggles to his feet, his own fire flickering weakly as he recognizes the familiar energy signature. Below him, his would-be recruit Yuxiong is completely paralyzed, unable to move a muscle. A new group emerges, with their leader casually ordering his team to collect the tokens from the immobilized fighters. The newcomer grins, giving a little wave and acknowledging that Shizai wasn't taken down so easily. But Shizai can only grit his teeth, stunned by the sheer force of the electricity coursing through him. He glares at the newcomers, his suspicion confirmed as he utters the attacker's name, Jiyu. Jiyu stares him down, making it crystal clear. There's nothing to talk about. She will never join his group. Shizai's eye glints with fiery intent. He's not here to persuade her, he's here to inform her. He patronizingly says he'll wait for her to make the correct decision, as he unleashes a massive flaming palm. But the monster lord calmly steps in front of Jiyu, telling her to take a break. This guy is out of her league for now. Besides, he smirks. This is a perfect opportunity to test out his own transcended abilities. A brilliant flash of golden energy erupts from his hand, meeting the raging inferno head-on. The fiery blast is completely snuffed out, leaving Shizai standing there in the fading embers. His eyes widen in disbelief. His attack, it just vanished. Before he can process it, the monster lord is in his face, a golden blade at his throat, mockingly asking if he's feeling a little nervous. Enraged by the sheer disrespect, Shizai roars, calling him an arrogant fool for daring to look down on him. The monster lord simply watches, almost academically, as two massive fire beasts manifest from Shizai's 90% transcended genes. The twin infernos surge forward, a swirling vortex of pure, destructive heat. With his target now seemingly trapped, Shizai confidently declares that there's nowhere left to run. He brings his hands together, commanding the two fiery entities to merge into one overwhelming attack. The condensed ball of annihilation is launched, a technique designed to leave nothing but scorched earth. But as the flames pass, Shizai realizes his target is just gone, a flicker of disbelief crossing his face. A quick glance up reveals the humiliating truth. The monster lord is floating calmly in the sky, completely untouched. From the ground, Yuseong can only stare in horror. His hope that Shizai's ultimate attack would land is utterly shattered. But Shizai just grins, his arrogance unbroken. He scatters the flames, unleashing his true technique, the 1,000 flaming palms. A storm of fiery palms rains down on the monster lord from every direction. He just looks on, completely unfazed by the overwhelming attack. So there are more now, but they're also much smaller, a mere 1% of his own power should do. With a single, almost lazy slash, his golden blade carves through the inferno. Shizai's arrogant grin vanishes, replaced by pure, slack-jawed disbelief. And yet, in the next instant, he has the monster lord seemingly trapped in a headlock. He leans in close, mockingly pointing out the sharpness of his opponent's own blades. He smirks, whispering that while he won't kill him at school, injuries are another story. Shizai is convinced that one wrong move will cause the boy irreparable damage. After all, what chance does a pathetic 1% stand against his own 90% transcended power? He channels his own fire through the boy's golden blade, intending to overpower his transcended genes. The plan is simple: destroy his core from within, leaving him crippled for at least a year. With this, the nuisance will finally be gone, or so he thinks. But as he pours in his power, he hits a wall. This kid's genes, they're unbelievably strong. In fact, this strange newcomer's presence feels just like his uncle's, a legendary 4-star transcender. The monster lord suddenly starts screaming, flailing his arms as if hit by an unstoppable force. Shizai can only stare in utter bewilderment. What kind of act is this? The boy then stops, humbly conceding defeat and declaring Shizai the strongest, leaving him completely speechless. Just then, Bo Liang appears, announcing that the competition has officially concluded. The other bullies who were running rampant can only scowl in frustration at the sudden end. Surrounded by his new followers, the monster lord casually presents a mountain of tokens. Bo Liang warns him that hoarding them all has made him a target, but the kid just laughs it off. Someone then points out that there's still one token missing the one Shizai has. The arrogant pyrokinetic frantically checks his pockets, a look of disbelief on his face. And of course, our boy pops up, theatrically explaining he just happened to pick it up after their little fight. He even offers it back, the sheer disrespect making Shizai tremble with rage. Too proud to accept, Shizai storms off, vowing revenge while our hero couldn't care less. Later, the group cashes in their winnings, receiving an incredible 6 vials of liquid gene medicine. As they leave, one of the girls he saved timidly approaches, wanting to ask him a question. She looks him in the eye and asks what we're all thinking. He could have easily beaten Shizai, couldn't he? She can't wrap her head around it, asking him why he let Shizai go. With a knowing smirk, he explains that Shizai is the heir to a powerful family, and there's no need to rush into a bigger conflict. The group marvels at his tactical mind as they finally arrive back at the campus. He pushes a cart loaded with their rewards towards the dorms, but the group's leader quickly calls out that he's going the wrong way. That's the woman's dormitory, he points, telling him their room is in the other direction. Jiyu steps in to clarify. The school has special, private dorms for students with exceptionally high transcended genes. The leader freezes, his mind slowly processing the information. He knows that's Jiyu's dorm, so that means a sudden, massive realization dawns on him, his eyes widening in comical understanding. He immediately starts waving them off, enthusiastically wishing his big bro and big sis a good night. Our hero sighs, muttering that he's already told them they're just childhood friends, but the two are already celebrating his new relationship. He mentions it'll take all night to absorb these resources, joking with Jiyu about old times. She teases him about his womanizing past, but as he insists he's changed, she can't help but feel he's telling the truth. Once inside, he begins to explain the history of transcenders and how humanity learned to harness their power. They can't create powers, but they can extract a life essence from biological sources to replenish energy. She remarks that it sounds an awful lot like what the man-eating monsters do. He downs a vial, making a face. It might restore power, but it does absolutely nothing for hunger. The official advice is 1 a day, but he tells her to forget that and just go all out to rank up. He then leans in close, asking her to zap him so he can feel the energy processing through her body. Suddenly, he's far too close, and Jiyu freezes up, her mind racing at the sudden intimacy. A flood of memories confirms it. He really has changed, and he hasn't been this focused on her since middle school. He breaks the silence, his red eyes focused as he asks her to jolt him already. Leaning in, he pinches her cheeks, teasingly wondering why his usually violent friend is hesitating now. But before she can even process the taunt, he shoves her backward with surprising force. In one smooth, unexpected motion, he has her pinned to the floor. He looms over her, a sly grin on his face, asking if she was daydreaming about something. Jiyu's mind goes completely blank, her face flushing as she stammers, asking what he's doing. His arm presses down, holding her firmly in place, leaving no room for escape. Their faces are inches apart, his intense gaze locking onto hers as he leans even closer. A sudden, mortifying thought hits her. The reason he isn't looking for monsters is because he's found a much more interesting target right here, and she begs him to get up. He leans in close, whispering that she smells so good he could just eat her up. Jiyu's mind short-circuits, completely unable to process what he's even saying. Suddenly, his face twists, fangs bared, and one eye glowing with a terrifying blue light. That's it, she's had enough. Blasting him away with a surge of furious pink lightning, the uncontrolled bolt shoots into the night sky as she has a sudden, embarrassing realization. He lands gracefully, explaining that the scent of her powerful genes is an overwhelming temptation for a mutant like him. All the fight drains out of her, replaced with a single, deadpan "oh." He sheds his jacket, encouraging her to keep going, telling her she's on the right track to controlling her power. Tossing her a mask, he cheekily adds that you should always wear one when you're about to do something bad. Then he turns to leave, casually promising to grab her some snacks while he's out. Left alone, Jiyu can only blush and mutter that he's a complete idiot. Meanwhile, our protagonist reflects on his current strength as an early-stage rank 3 monster. He pulls the mask into place, his crimson eyes filled with a calm focus. With the power of the Lord's flame, he feels confident he can handle even a peak rank 3. As long as he keeps his monstrous left hand hidden from view, everyone will just mistake him for a simple fire element transcender. But his confident stroll is cut short by a sudden, overwhelming feeling. He realizes he has to conceal his aura immediately, a jolt of panic running through him. Leaping into the trees, he vanishes from sight just as the presence grows stronger. It's the Earth Dragon, the very same behemoth from the testing grounds, still hunting in this area. It had sensed him, and now he knows. Using the Lord's flame excessively is like sending up a flare for every monster in the region. Elsewhere in the forest, another figure walks away, lamenting that tonight's supper won't be as tasty as he'd hoped. He knows the truth of this world, that Earth Dragons aren't the only threat, and some monsters were once human, and in a past life, he witnessed the coming apocalypse, fueled by the genetic energy of the slain. In a completely different part of town, a young man wakes with a splitting headache, confused about where he is. His last memory is of a casual phone call, just before a masked man grabbed him from the shadows. Now, a white van speeds through a dark alleyway, carrying its new cargo. He comes to, tied up with other victims, and immediately starts screaming, much to the surprise of his captors. His pleas are ignored as the kidnappers casually debate the sedative's dosage, wondering why this one woke up so fast. The masked man leans in with a smirk. It seems they've caught someone far more interesting than they expected. His captors casually discuss why he woke up 3 hours early. He has a high concentration of monster genes. The poor guy listens in pure terror, as they estimate his gene percentage is over a staggering 80%. The driver is ecstatic. A grade. A specimen like this is worth 7 times their usual haul. A huge profit. But the celebration is cut short. They need to knock him out before he transforms, just as a glowing fist appears outside the van. In a flash, a dark figure unleashes a maelstrom of energy, tearing through the night. The van's windshield explodes inward, the blonde kidnapper staring in shock at the sudden, overwhelming assault. Their entire vehicle is sent flying through the air, completely at the mercy of this unknown attacker. It smashes back onto the pavement, crippled and smoking from the impact. Inside, the kidnappers are frantic. The engine's busted, and their assailant has vanished without a trace. The blonde man orders his partner to watch the cargo, vowing to hunt the attacker down only to spot a masked figure in the rearview mirror. His partner screams a warning, but it's far too late. The masked figure yanks the blonde kidnapper right out of the driver's seat. Hes tossed aside with contemptuous ease, crashing into the dark woods. Picking himself up, the kidnapper demands to know who this is, wondering if their intel was leaked. He doesn't wait for an answer, deciding this mysterious attacker simply cannot be left alive. But inside the van, the other accomplice has a new problem. The captives are waking up. One of them, a panicked man, begs to be let go, swearing his monster genes are stable. He tearfully explains his wife already left him, but his son is still waiting for him at home. The kidnapper's response is pure evil. Don't worry, your son is on our list too. He forces a strange potion down the man's throat, telling him to go back to sleep. The driver, seeing his partner in trouble, snaps he doesn't care about the dosage anymore. Outside, a storm of crackling blue energy erupts through the trees. The kidnapper unleashes his full power, boasting that he's a 3-star transcendent. But as his lightning surges forward, he sees something impossible: faint blue flames. He scoffs, thinking fire and electricity will just damage them both. A split second later, his confidence shatters as the feedback roasts his hands from the inside out. He stumbles back in agony, wondering how this guy is completely unharmed. Lying on the ground, he desperately tries to justify his actions, calling them an act of justice. But our hero isn't buying it, flatly stating that human trafficking has nothing to do with justice. With a boot to the face, he demands to know everything about this redemption association. He calmly spells out their entire twisted operation, leaving the kidnapper stunned at how much he knows. Pinned underfoot, the man still tries to justify his actions as a necessary evil, a service to society. But our hero's cold glare silences him instantly. He will only speak when he's told to. And so, the story spills out. The Redemption Association, a supposed safe haven, turned into a slaughterhouse. They sold their own people to the Fan family, who used them for experiments and even fed them to monsters underground. Back in the present, he asks how many secret bases the Fan family has. The kidnapper weakly offers up one. A little more pressure from our hero's boot seems to jog his memory, and suddenly he recalls a second location. With his head about to pop, the kidnapper finally breaks, confessing to numerous monster factories all over the country. But our hero isn't interested in a national tour. He hones in on the ones near Qingchu City. Desperate, the man swears there's only one nearby and offers to lead the way, completely clueless about the underground monsters he just helped feed. He dismisses the man as a low-ranking grunt and commands him to lead the way to the monster factory. The kidnapper meekly agrees, but as our hero turns his back, a treacherous smile spreads across his face. Thinking he's got the perfect opening, he summons a crackling ball of electricity, ready to blow his captor's head clean off. But our hero simply turns, unimpressed, and tells him to scream loud enough for his friends in the car to hear. He catches the electric blast with his bare left hand, and the kidnapper's confidence completely shatters. How is this possible? A predatory grin spreads across our hero's face as he mockingly admits he trusts the other guy's escape plan more. The kidnapper's blood runs cold as a monstrous jaw rips through our hero's face. This isn't a man, it's a true monster. A terrified scream rips through the quiet forest, echoing towards a nearby van. Inside, the man in the red cross mask is busy subduing another captive, annoyed by how much trouble he's causing. He looks up just in time to see our hero approaching, a cold dread washing over him. Electric Eel was defeated that fast? This guy is no ordinary foe. Panicked, the man in the red cross mask abandons the van, deciding his own safety comes first. He leaves our hero to deal with the aftermath, as one of the rescued captives breathes a sigh of relief. But our hero delivers a chilling warning. As far as the world is concerned, they're all already dead. He tells the man to stay hidden, but the captive is frozen with despair. His son is still back in the city. Meanwhile, the masked kidnapper rockets towards his destination, an island built on the ruins of Nansha City. This was once a thriving metropolis, but it became a casualty in the brutal war against monsters 20 years ago. Now, it's a restricted zone, repurposed by Nanhua City to house all its top-secret transcender facilities. Our hero arrives shortly after, a grim realization dawning on him. So this is the Fan family's monster factory. Inside the facility, the masked man walks into a chamber filled with countless monsters, chained and imprisoned. He calmly approaches a security camera, announcing his return and confirming he isn't an intruder. He complains to the camera about the factory's defenses, finding the monster noises terribly irritating. The voice on the other end assures him that their detection systems are foolproof, but the masked man is starting to get nervous, asking what happened to his partner, Electric Eel. Panic sets in. He realizes someone must have interfered, and his partner is likely dead. The operator on the other side suddenly senses danger, demanding to know if he was followed. But the kidnapper scoffs at the idea, boasting that as a 3-star wind transcender, no one could possibly keep up. Back in the control room, an operator spots a flicker on the monitor, but his partner dismisses it as impossible. Meanwhile, our hero walks casually among the chained monsters, completely undetected. He notes the convenient blind spots in the surveillance network, a fatal flaw in their design. With a confident smirk, he decides there's no need to find a door hell, just make one himself. Deep inside the facility, in a sterile quarantine room, researchers are getting impatient. They're running out of supplies, and their latest human specimen is waiting on the table. Suddenly, the man convulses, letting out a blood-curdling scream of pure agony. The lead researcher scoffs, annoyed that his subordinate didn't remove the man's vocal cords first. He coldly explains that if they extract the genes directly, the host turns to smoke. To preserve the samples, they must be removed while the body, the container, is still alive. But through the torment, the victim begins to plead, telling them he doesn't care what they do to him. All he asks is that they spare his wife, whose monster gene count is still incredibly low. He begs and he pleads, tears streaming down his face, but the researcher is completely unmoved. Ignoring the desperate cries, he simply forces the man's mouth open to continue his work. With his last bit of strength, he glances up at a wall of containment pods. His eyes lock onto one, in particular his wife, her face twisted in an unconscious grimace. The sight shatters his composure, and a raw, guttural scream tears from his throat. He roars curses at them, promising a miserable death and no peace in the afterlife for these monsters. The lead researcher simply lectures his subordinate, explaining that such emotional outbursts increase the chance of failure and obstruct human progress. As he continues his work, the victim's world suddenly fades to black. But it's not just him. The entire lab plunges into darkness, shocking the researchers. Panic erupts over the comms. The backup power isn't working, the wires have been cut, and they've been ambushed. The lead researcher turns, demanding to know what's happening, only to find the masked kidnapper standing in the doorway. The kidnapper furiously blames the researcher, revealing that he was tracked, and the people who ambushed them just cut the power. The lead researcher shrieks in panic, ordering a level 1 security alert. He scrambles for his phone, knowing he has to warn the higher-ups that the monster factory has been infiltrated. But just as he's about to dial, a flash of energy obliterates his phone right in his hand. The masked kidnapper stares in disbelief, realizing with dawning horror that this intruder must have followed him here. The researcher, trying to keep his composure, orders his security guards to find the intruder immediately. They barely take 2 steps into the hallway before screams erupt, and their bodies are violently dragged into the darkness. A cold voice echoes from the doorway, remarking how their very souls smell like filth. And there he is, our boy in the star-emblazoned hood, utterly disgusted by this late-night snack he stumbled upon. The researcher scoffs, regaining his arrogance, and asks if he's here for these monster gene carriers, mocking his ignorance. He then sneers that since the intruder has barged in, he might as well stay and become their next test subject. The researcher boasts that the fallen guards were just grunts. The real security has arrived. From the shadows, 2 enforcers wreathed in flames lunge forward, cackling about their new victim. They're joined by the man in the Red Cross mask, who declares he's here to avenge his fallen comrade. The lead researcher watches, wondering who this arrogant intruder could possibly be to attack his lab alone. But his confidence swells as he takes stock of his fighters. 2 3-star mid-stage brawlers and 1 early-stage wind user. He smirks, convinced that no matter the intruder's rank, his transcended gene chain will soon be his. The masked man strikes first, unleashing a swirling vortex of wind energy. At the same time, his fiery companions summon blazing staffs of pure flame, but as their attacks meet resistance, the fire user is stunned to see a wave of brilliant blue flames. His smug confidence vanishes as his own flaming staff begins to dissolve, completely outmatched. Panic sets in for the fire user as he feels his transcendent ability being completely nullified. The masked man watches the chaos unfold, his own wind power fueling the storm. But it's useless. The brilliant blue flames simply consume their combined assault. The fire enforcers are engulfed in the backlash, realizing their opponent must have some kind of legendary 5-elemental star quality. Even the wind user is sent flying, his own attack redirected back at him with crushing force. He can only stare in disbelief, thinking this must be some kind of kamikaze, self-destruction ability. But our protagonist has seen this kind of desperate, all-or-nothing move before. The masked man grits his teeth, realizing his opponent is using a technique that seems to sacrifice his very life force. Then the monster lord appears, casually flipping him off and asking if he's really got enough juice to try that again. Before they can react, he unleashes a counterwave of energy, sending the two fire users spiraling into defeat. His allies can only gawk at their fallen comrade, noting it looks like he was hit by a truck. The thought dawns on them this isn't a person, it's a monster, and at least a rank 3 to be this strong. But they think they've found a weakness. His powerful moves seem to be limited to a very small area. A new plan forms. Keep their distance, don't let him get close, and they can win this. With renewed confidence, they unleash a dual assault, summoning massive pillars of fire. But from his observation room, the lead researcher knows they've completely misjudged the situation. He internally scoffs at their ignorance. Not all 3-star transcenders can even use the power of an elemental star chart, and as a longtime researcher of fire abilities, he knows exactly what he's seeing. The Monster Lord isn't using some complex star chart technique, it's just pure elemental power and brute physical strength. Their attack is instantly swallowed by his azure flames, their power difference made painfully, overwhelmingly clear. His blue flames don't just consume their power, they tear right through it. Seeing his men downed, the researcher gives a desperate order. Use the Crimson Fire Seed. This is the Monster Factory's hidden trump card, their last resort. It's a special drug that temporarily boosts a 3-star transcender to the level of a 4-star. Feeling the surge of destructive power, the enforcers get cocky, ready to take him on with their new flaming staff. But as their powers clash, the lead researcher notices something truly strange about the intruder's flames. They're eerily similar to the legendary eternal flame his family has been seeking for generations. Before he can even process this revelation, the Monster Lord moves, his speed and power utterly eclipsing their drug-fueled boost. How could this be? Their power was temporarily increased, yet it meant nothing. The enforcers are annihilated in an instant, and the feedback surge blows out the researcher's monitor. Picking himself up, the lead researcher has a sudden, chilling epiphany. He realizes the intruder's transcended gene count must be astronomically high, over 90%. His flames even possess the legendary devouring property. The Monster Lord's eyes narrow. This eternal flame is news to him, and he demands to know where it is. Seeing his chance, the researcher tries to cut a deal, offering access to it if he joins the fan family. He gestures around the lab, trying to sell a vision of a grand future they could build together. But our boy cuts him off, casually mentioning that he's already killed some of his people. The researcher scoffs. Security grunts are disposable. As long as the researchers are safe, who cares? The Monster Lord clarifies with a cold smile he meant all of them are dead, including the researchers. He's released every monster in the facility and sealed all the exits, turning this lab into a slaughterhouse. It's only fair, he says, that the monsters they created will now be the ones to devour them. The researcher completely loses it, screaming that those gene carriers were just societal scum anyway. But for our boy, this is about justice, a promise made to a tear-streaked face in his memory, a promise to let his fallen brother rest in peace. He vowed to help them all get revenge on the fan family, a declaration that breaks the researcher's mind. Snapping back to the present, he lifts the man by his throat, demanding the location of the eternal flame. Under the terrifying gaze of the advancing monsters, the researcher finally breaks, agreeing to talk. He chokes out a location, but the Monster Lord's grip only tightens, stunning the man with his silent disbelief. He knew it was a lie, a simple tactic to waste time, explaining that his knowledge of this city runs deep. The researcher was stalling for his reinforcements, but with a cold smirk, our boy reveals a simple truth. So was he. The researcher stammers, asking what he wants, but our boy already knows the man's plan. He taunts the scientist, telling him to guess what kind of power he cultivates. Tears stream down the researcher's face as he screams, completely unable to understand why the monsters won't devour him. With a chilling gaze, our boy asks him if he looks like he's just seen a monster. He confirms the man's deepest fear. He has no elemental chart because he absorbs everything, just like them. Now, he can smell the scent of powerful transcended genes approaching from above. His real prey is here. With the facility now a monster factory, he knows those reinforcements won't just rush in blindly. The narrow exit is a perfect choke point, forcing his targets to come right to him. So with his trap set, he's finally free to wander around and see what he can use. And he hits the jackpot. A fridge full of pure life essence, confirming the fan family was the right target all along. He muses that this stash of life essence will be more than enough for Jiyu, which is why he's taking it all for himself. And while he's at it, he might as well grab the 3 rare crimson fire seeds they had locked away. With his pockets full, he turns to the horde of monsters he created, asking if they enjoyed their meal. With a serene, almost gentle smile, he tells his companions it's time to send them on their way. His true nature flashes through as he commands them all to enter his stomach. His task complete, and feeling fully satisfied, he grabs his spoils and prepares to head home. But then, he catches a scent on the wind, his eyes narrowing. He's here. Looking down from above, a new challenger appears, mockingly praising the beautiful carnage. With a twisted grin, he promises to reward the one responsible by forcing him to kneel. But our boy isn't impressed, as golden energy erupts around him. He hasn't had his fun yet, and this guy will do just fine. And our boy recognizes this psycho from the news, a 4-star transcender. The arrogant fighter introduces himself, an earth elemental who awakened a gravity ability. He smirks, impressed that his reputation precedes him, and mocks the fan family for hiring such a notorious killer. With a flick of his wrist, jagged rocks erupt from the ground, pinning our hero in place as he promises a nightmare. A massive boulder forms overhead as he vows to spend the next few hours crushing his opponent's body. He sneers, promising to make him beg for mercy just like the women he'd murdered. With a stomp, he sends a wave of crushing earth spikes directly at his trapped target. The villain leans in, demanding screams he can't hear through the rock, but then he sees it. A faint blue light seeps through the cracks, followed by an eruption of ethereal blue flames. His shocked blue flames are blocking his earth blades? He grins, thinking he's found a strong 3-star, and that this might actually be fun. The arrogant fighter digs in, activating his heavy earth star chart to unleash a wave of crushing gravity. But our hero is just calmly assessing the situation. A 4-star's power is impressive and perfect to use as a decoy. He leans in and mocks the killer, suggesting he save his energy for running away later. This only excites the sadist, who thrives on his victim's defiance before he inevitably breaks them. He roars that the longer this takes, the better, and winds up for another devastating attack. But as he lunges forward, he suddenly freezes, sensing something deeply, fundamentally wrong. An immense, terrifying pressure erupts from behind him, the unmistakable aura of a rank 3 monster. He whirls around to see his opponent's left hand twisting into a monstrous, energy-wreathed claw. How did he get there? In a blind panic, he summons his ultimate technique, the 3rd level of heavy earth for absolute defense. But that monstrous hand smashes right through his barrier, as if it were nothing more than a sheet of paper. But it's not the hand itself he needs to worry about. From its palm, a parasitic, fang-filled creature bursts forth and launches itself like a living projectile. It latches onto the fighter's back, a tiny, insignificant wound. He scoffs, asking if that little scratch was a serious attack. Under his immense gravitational pressure, he's certain there is no escape. But our boy just calmly stands there, asking why he suddenly looks so bored. He explains he was just trying his best to hide his monster aura. Suddenly, the entire street begins to violently shake and tremble. The fighter looks on in horror as the very ground cracks apart from a power deep below. And he reveals his little secret with a grin. His tendrils have already marked the fighter, covering him in a scent only a monster would recognize. The arrogant fighter feels it instantly, a terrifying presence surging up from below. He desperately tries to reinforce the ground, calling on his 3rd-level earth fortification. But his defense is utterly worthless, as a colossal earth dragon erupts from the concrete, shattering everything. He's thrown back, his mind reeling in disbelief. Why is a monster of this caliber doing here? It's then he notices the dragon's piercing blue eyes are locked directly onto him, ignoring everything else. A cold sweat breaks out across his face as the horrifying truth begins to dawn. This thing isn't just rampaging, it's hunting him. He finally connects the dots that Brat didn't just hold him back. He marked him as prey for this beast. As the dragon lunges, our boy gives a casual little wave, a cheerful bye-bye to the man he just fed to a monster. With his trap sprung, our boy slips away with his prize, a job well done. He watches from a distance, satisfied that everything now depends on the cleanup crew. He smirks, his grand plan finally in motion. He's revealed this apocalyptic threat to the exterminators a year early. And right on schedule, an elite squad appears, led by the impossibly confident 4-star transcender, Shang Guangque. Her team gets a lock on their target. The Earth Dragon is just 500 meters out and closing fast. She scoffs at their unease, telling them their team alone is more than enough to achieve this great honor. With a sharp order, she commands them to prepare the binding formation immediately. The team's tracker's eyes go wide, calling out coordinates as the beast barrels towards them at impossible speeds. On their screens, the dragon's signature zips across the map, closing hundreds of meters in mere seconds. The women of the squad channel their power, beginning the incantation for their flowstone formation. Shang Guangque seethes, remembering how the beast escaped last time. This time, she vows, she will cut it down. But her tracker suddenly cries out a warning. There's someone standing directly in the dragon's path. He runs a quick sonic scan to identify the figure, and his face pales in shock. It's a notorious death row inmate, a murderer. Shang Guangque scoffs if he's with the monster. she'll just kill them both. With a roar, she unleashes her ultimate technique, the water dragon. A massive torrent of pure energy surges forward, aimed squarely at the beast and the fool in front of it. The arrogant fighter, beaten and desperate, sees the attack and for a fleeting moment, thinks he's being rescued. That hope instantly turns to sheer terror as he realizes they aren't saving him at all. Panicked, he throws up layers of earth barriers, screaming about his absolute defense. But her attack was never for him. The water dragon slams full force into the colossal earth dragon. The sheer shockwave of the blast sends the arrogant fighter tumbling away. Her water dragon tears into the colossal beast, which lets out a furious roar. But Shangguangqi presses her attack, leaping onto the monster's back to get in close. With a battle cry, she brings down her blade, wreathed in torrents of energy. The arrogant fighter watches on, a smug grin spreading across his face. He thinks he's been saved. He immediately turns to flee, feeling lucky that he could dump this problem on someone else. His mind is already on damage control, worried about failing his mission. But something stops him dead in his tracks. A strange rumble from behind. An armored tail erupts from the asphalt just feet away from him. Shangguangqi's eyes widen in horror. Another earth dragon has just appeared. Her mind reels at the sight. 2 of them? She wonders just how many more are lurking underground. The sheer scale is unbelievable. She knows no one has ever seen the end of an earth dragon's tail. Wasting no time, she orders her team to contain the beast, determined not to let it escape. With a defiant cry, she launches herself straight towards the new dragon's gaping mouth. Her team leader shouts a frantic warning, "Don't go near its teeth, they're impossibly strong." But a determined glint appears in Shangguangqi's eyes. It'll have to bite her first. She unleashes her ultimate technique, Shinganized, a colossal wave of blue energy that stuns her allies. The attack tears straight through the monster's head as she declares she's reversed its life force. Satisfied, she watches her attack carve down its body, eager to see the creature's true form revealed. But as the energy trail stretches on for hundreds of meters, her confidence instantly evaporates into disbelief. Her team celebrates their first dragon kill, but Shangguangqi knows the truth. Her power isn't enough to go further. A cold dread settles in as she wonders, did she really kill it? And what kind of monster was that, really? Elsewhere, at the Fan family's secret research base, a senior official demands a report on the monster factory disaster. The news is grim. The facility is a total loss. Every researcher is dead, and their assassin was likely eaten. Worse, their illegal lab has been exposed, and the extermination department is furious, discussing their punishment. The old man scoffs, dismissing it as a mere slap on the wrist before asking the only question that matters. Who's behind this? His aide brings up the final message sent by the factory director just before his death. The culprit wielded blue flames, a devouring power with a fire gene that rivals the legendary eternal flame itself. Shizai's eyes widen in bitter realization this person isn't just an enemy, he's the key to unlocking their greatest ambition. He seethes with envy, lamenting how his family has worked for generations, only for some unknown upstart to hold the true path to power. Shizai declares that if they can't reach the 90% gene threshold naturally, they'll just have to seize it. All they need are the genes from this blue flame user to finally open the everlasting blossom and forge their own dynasty. The senior official knows their first priority is finding this mysterious blue flame user, but his aide wonders how. He scoffs the target is just one man. Why get their own hands dirty when they can let the exterminators do the work? The old man lays out his plan. They will report that the blue flame criminal destroyed their lab and might even be behind the Earth Dragon incident. His aide immediately understands the scheme and rushes off to deliver the falsified report. Elsewhere, Shizai stands before the giant, pulsating green pod, whispering a promise that he will one day open it and retrieve the legendary eternal flames locked within. The true scale of their project is revealed: a monstrous plant suspended in a vast chamber, its roots plunging into the darkness below. And 5,000 meters down, those roots are feeding on something horrifying, a nest of colossal, slumbering dragons. Deep within the gullet of one of these ancient, slumbering beasts, the arrogant fighter from before suddenly materializes, screaming in raw panic. His mind races, trying to process the wet, sticky, and bloody cavern he's trapped in. And then, the horrifying truth dawns as a colossal red eye opens in the oppressive darkness. But as the ancient creature gazes upon him, it seems almost disappointed. This isn't the meal it was waiting for. The fighter can only stare back, utterly bewildered by the monster's complete lack of interest. That's when a new presence emerges, a familiar aura of brilliant blue flames that the dragon instantly craves. Its massive eye widens, finally locking onto the true prize it's been searching for. With a silent roar of recognition, the dragon snaps its jaws shut, intent on consuming the one it remembers. And somewhere far away, The masterminds behind this horrifying trap are already thinking ahead, confident their hidden resources are secure. He slips back into the apartment, trying to be inconspicuous after that chaotic escape. Walking in, he casually greets Jiyu, offering her a box of high-quality life essence he snagged from the institution. But his mind is racing. He knows the owner of that tail, the Earth Dragon, now has a piece of him. As she heads to her room, he contemplates the grim possibilities this new connection creates. The dragon's rampage could lead the exterminators right to their research base for the Eternal Flames. A facility where a desperate plan is unfolding a belief that it's better for the apocalypse to manifest sooner rather than later. And right on cue, their giant bioweapon, the Everlasting Blossom, begins to crack open. The green husk peels back, unfurling like a monstrous flower with blood-red petals. A young researcher cries out in alarm, watching the legendary blossom begin to bloom before its time. But the senior scientists can only stare in disbelief as a familiar, brilliant blue energy erupts from the depths below. As the energy consumes him, the lead researcher desperately orders someone to get Director Fan back. The other scientists are helpless, caught in the same violent surge, their breakthrough becoming their tomb. At the same time, the entire city plunges into darkness, and an alert blares as a new player makes his move. Meet the Fan family's private death squad, a team of criminals who mock their leader's new invincible body. Their captain, a man with discolored, scarred hands, knows they owe their power to the very family running this facility. They are a team of supposed dead convicts, boasting 3 4-star transcendence and 7 at the peak of 3-star. With intruders detected, they've been given a new mission: leave no survivors. The captain begins delegating, assigning his female subordinate to run defense and block incoming attacks. His blonde, knife-wielding maniac is assigned to offense, eager to slice and dice their armed forces. And Team C, a squad of glowing silhouettes, is tasked with locking down the area, ensuring no one gets out alive. The captain gives a final order to his subordinate: Ah Chu, conceal yourself and scavenge what you can. The rest of the death squad storms the hallway, their leader reminding them that any intruder will be a serious threat. With a crackle of yellow energy, he ignites his adrenaline, his scarred hand ready for a slaughter. The entire squad grins maniacally, absolutely thrilled at the thought of the massacre to come. But before they can take a single step, a hellish torrent of blue flame engulfs them completely. Ah Chu, who had vanished just moments before, can only watch in stunned silence. In a single, horrifying instant, his entire squad was just erased. He stumbles back, realizing that his quick decision to conceal his aura was the only thing that saved him. He frantically reports what he saw: 4 invisible monsters, born from the flower, wielding eternal flames. Grabbing Dean Fan, he screams that they are in deep trouble and must call the exterminators immediately. Ah Q is absolutely losing it, screaming that this is a threat that no one can possibly handle. But Dean Fan has a very simple policy for anyone who tries to leak what's happening here: they die. With the dissenter silenced in a ball of fire, he coldly orders his men to strip the body of its genes. His nephew, Shizai, excitedly reports that the Everlasting Blossom has calmed down, its power now even stronger. He marvels at its ability to stimulate genes, seeing a clear path to becoming a 4-star transcender. This flower, Dean Fan declares with absolute conviction, is a treasure exclusive to his family. Meanwhile, far from the Fan family's secret lab, our monster lord has returned home. Jiu looks up at him with a curious gaze, asking if he plans on eating her again tonight. He smirks, explaining he's already had his fill and needs 10 days to digest everything and reach peak rank 3. But his next step is crucial: evolving his transcended genes to stabilize his power within a human shell. He kneels before Jiu, explaining that her unique constitution is the perfect catalyst for his plan. Gently lifting her chin, he asks her to trust him, just this once. She seems to understand the gravity of the moment, bracing herself for what's to come. With a crackle of energy, his left hand begins to shift, morphing into its monstrous state. He presents the glowing, clawed appendage, the very tool he'll use to awaken her power. Taking a deep breath, Jiu decides to put her faith in him and see what happens. Her only condition is a simple, whispered plea for him to be gentle. He grins, promising it'll be over in a flash as he lunges forward. His claw plunges toward her, not with violence, but with a torrent of pure energy. Purple lightning erupts from her body as she feels her own transcended genes roaring to life. He can't help but be impressed by how quickly she's reacting to the energy injection. He tells her to draw on his experience, absorb all her latent power, and refine it, and not to worry about the cost the institution will cover tonight's little incident. Meanwhile, in the principal's office, an aide bursts in, panicked about a campus-wide blackout. Principal Ching Che just sips his tea, completely unbothered by the sudden darkness. As his aide grows more frantic, he simply tells her to stay calm. He explains that the most talented genius in their history is just having a breakthrough. The aide's fear immediately pivots to a new concern. That electricity bill is going to be astronomical. But the principal just laughs it off, saying talent is priceless. Besides, he muses, it's a good thing the phone lines still work, just in case. He places a call directly to the exterminator's headquarters. The principal calmly introduces himself, not a hint of panic in his voice. He confirms their suspicions about the citywide blackout, casually dismissing it as just his student Jiyu having a breakthrough before cheekily asking about reimbursement. After all, the non-UA institution is located in its own massive, isolated clearing zone, a sprawling island dedicated solely to nurturing transcendence, right next to the city center. And at this moment, an entire city's worth of power is being siphoned directly into Jiyu. The operator on the other end is stunned. For a newly awakened transcendent, her ability to contain this much energy is beyond belief. But Qingche simply explains that the purer a person's transcended genes, the more energy they can naturally store. This is the very secret of ascension, a seemingly unattainable path that organizations worldwide are desperate to understand. Yet, after all that grand explanation, the principal's most pressing concern is a simple one. Just how much will this little 3-hour power surge cost him? The operator on the other end delivers the final, staggering bill over 56 million, and Qingche nearly chokes on his tea. She voices her concerns, wondering if Jiyu hit a bottleneck, but the principal scoffs, fully confident in his student's success. As if on cue, his aide announces that Jiyu herself is waiting right outside his office. Trying to hide his sudden anxiety, the principal calmly tells his aide to let her in. Jiyu and the monster lord enter, and after a quick apology for the cost, Qingche asks the million-dollar question, is she a 1-star now? Her answer is a simple, almost disappointingly casual, nope. The principal's heart sinks into his boots, face-palming as he assumes total failure and offers a pathetic consolation prize. But Jiyu clarifies his misunderstanding. She's not a 1-star because she's already a 2-star transcendent. Qingche is utterly floored, standing up in disbelief. By his calculations, that leap should have taken weeks, not hours. Needing to see this impossible feat with his own eyes, he prepares to personally verify her power. And just like that, the principal's office is suddenly swarmed by shadowy, root-like tendrils. Jiyu is stunned. They gave off no aura, no sense of threat, yet she can feel their immense power. Ah, so Qingche sees it now. Her transcended genes are blazing, accelerating her refinement. He explains that this level of activity is usually only triggered by 2 things: fighting monsters or intense emotions. With a playful wave, Jiyu cheekily declares that her emotions are just extremely intense at the moment. The principal gives her a deadpan stare, clearly not buying her cutesy little act for a second. Seeing his chance, the monster lord steps in, patting her head and changing the subject with a grin. He announces their true goal: to get their hands on a cultivation method to reach 3-star. Qingche dismisses their haste, assuring them Jiyu is covered. But for the monster lord, things are far more complicated. Qingche explains that reaching 3-star requires constructing an elemental star chart from one's genes. However, he points out a critical defect in the monster lords: his genes are far too weak to form one. With a knowing smirk, the monster lord asks about robotic exoskeletons for artificial transcendence. The principal's eyes narrow. How could this boy possibly know about that old, failed technology? The monster lord continues, confirming reports on the tech existed but were quickly scrubbed from public view. He reveals the project was scrapped because it only worked on the weakest transcendents and was wildly inefficient, requiring a massive amount of life essence fluid, which he declares is perfect for him. Qingche is appalled, telling him not to make stealing from his classmates sound so elegant. But the principal shuts the idea down cold, stating the device is incredibly expensive and simply not an option. And just as they're about to walk away, feigning disappointment, the principal cracks, yelling for them to get back here. Qingche relents, but with a heavy condition, offering the monster lord a single chance. If his team can make it through the upcoming supernova selections, he'll get the enhancement armor. With a flurry of thanks, they accept the challenge, but the principal adds one last thing: registration closes in 3 days. As they leave, his aide questions the decision, stating it's impossible for them to achieve supernova status. She explains they're just first years, and worse, 2 of his teammates haven't even awakened their powers yet. But the principal calmly sips his tea, a sly look on his face, suggesting it's not so clear-cut. He clarifies that his faith isn't just in Jiyu's talent, it's in the boy, the one they almost rejected. He reminds her how everyone was baffled when he let a kid with a 1% gene rate in, yet he passed the final trial. The principal admits the boy's transcended genes are basically non-existent, but his high school data showed anomalies. His aide is confused, questioning why he's looking into transcender fitness when his specialty is monster genes. He simply closes his eyes, a silent confirmation that his intuition is telling him something is off. Dismissing her, he calls the task he set an impossible long shot, but a win-win if they pull it off. Alone in his office that night, the phone suddenly rings, breaking the silence. He picks up, introducing himself to Director Zhu of the Extermination Bureau, who sounds a little too casual. Dropping all pleasantries, Ching Che delivers an ultimatum. Handle Zhiyu's massive electricity bill, or he resigns. The very next day, a new storm is brewing on the campus grounds. A high-ranking student orders an immediate investigation into a freshman Blue Flame user, suspecting a link to the fan's stolen data. In his office, Principal Ching Che receives two guests, alumni from the Extermination Bureau, who note how little has changed. The younger one, Lin Chi, bluntly points out the school's money problems, earning a swift hand to the face from his senior. Ching Che, unamused by the pleasantries, cuts straight to the chase, demanding to know why they're really here. The senior agent, Ni Yang, drops the facade, revealing their true mission, to investigate the Blue Flame user. Ching Che calmly asks why the Bureau suspects the user is one of his students, prompting Ni Yang to nod to his subordinate. The silver-haired fighter, Lin Chi, stands to give his testimony, recalling his own fateful encounter at the Shen market. He recounts a brutal fight where a monster ripped his arm clean off, only for a mysterious figure to appear and save him. When he awoke, the monsters were dead, and he saw a hooded young man absorbing their dark energy. But that wasn't the end of it. Their target's activities have escalated dramatically, forcing the Bureau's hand. Just yesterday, the Fan family reported a devastating attack on a key lab. The Blue Flame user stole their life fluids and killed everyone. The senior agent, Ni Yang, explains that this user is becoming far too dangerous to ignore. He lays out his theory. The timing of the user's first appearance coincides exactly with the opening of this very institution. Lin Chi, still fuming from his past encounter, vows to knock the guy out himself once they finally catch him. Principal Ching Che calmly sips his tea, observing their confidence, and noting how certain they are that the culprit is one of his students. And Lin Chi is certain, explaining that ever since that day, he's felt a strange, undeniable connection between them. He's not sure what it is, some bizarre resonance, or just a phantom feeling, but he knows he isn't wrong. The moment he stepped onto campus, he could feel it. The Blue Flame user is here, and he has to find out why. With that, Ni Yang makes their mission clear. The Extermination Bureau will thoroughly vet every single new student. Ching Che casually reveals that all the new students are currently gathered for training in the elemental field. He's giving them the perfect opportunity to begin their search, pointing them right toward the crowd of unsuspecting first years. An instructor named Bo Liang addresses the new students, explaining the training field will awaken or enhance their powers. He pushes his glasses up, telling them combat is the best training, and that they should all find sparring partners. But before the chaos can begin, he calls out to our protagonist and Jiyu, summoning them for a private chat. As they walk away, a few of the other students watch with predatory eyes, sensing an opportunity. The blonde-haired bully smirks, turning his attention to the non-awakened rabble now that their leader is gone. His long-haired crony condescendingly says he'll spar with Xiao Tao, implying the others aren't even worth his time. The whole gang surrounds the remaining friends, mocking them for thinking their leader could protect them forever. Meanwhile, Bo Liang reveals the dean has assigned him as their group's mentor for the upcoming supernova selection. He bluntly informs them that they don't even meet the minimum requirement, a 3-star ranked leader. That standard, he explains, was set years ago when a legendary first-year named Shang Guangkui defeated a 3-star examiner. Bo Liang suggests they could just join a second-year team, but our hero shuts him down, insisting his current team is fine. The mentor scoffs, mocking his choice to lead a team of 3 burdens, 2 non-awakeners, and a near-dud. But as he speaks, a strange sensation jolts our protagonist, a sudden connection to the silver-haired fighter he crippled. He realizes it's a complete resonance between their identical transcended genes. If he can sense him, the fighter can sense him back. Panicking internally, he decides to wrap his unique signature in his monster genes, cloaking himself from detection. Back in reality, Bo Liang continues his lecture, completely unaware, mentioning the Starry Sword star chart the principal gave him. He explains that without the proper armor, the technique is useless unless one can sense and imitate another's elements. Changing gears, he decides to make Ziyu the temporary captain and immediately challenges her to show him what she's got. A brilliant smile spreads across Jiyu's face as she asks if she can use her full power, warning that it might take a moment to charge up. Seeing her terrifyingly eager expression, Bo Liang quickly backpedals, telling her to aim for the sky first, not him. At that exact moment, one of the resident bullies decides to pick a fight, taunting Zhao Sheng's group about their leader. He barely gets the words out before a blinding flash of purple energy erupts directly in his face. He and his lackeys are frozen stiff, caught in the terrifyingly immense pressure of Ziyu's power. A colossal pillar of violet lightning crashes down from the sky, a spectacle of pure, untamed force. The once arrogant bullies are now practically bowing, fawning over Brother Sheng with newfound respect. The rest of the group can only stare, mouths agape, cheering on their awesome sister-in-law. Ziyu turns back to Bo Liang, asking with a sweet smile if her demonstration was acceptable enough for him. He numbly agrees, though his mind is racing. This girl isn't just a talent. She's a demoness, a future human nuclear plant. But their lesson is cut short by the arrival of a secretary, who needs to speak with Bo Liang urgently. Ziyu overhears her asking about the silver-haired fighter, her expression immediately shifting to one of deep concern. And just like that, our boy's senses tingle. The exterminators are here. Outside, all the participants are being herded into the main plaza, confused by the sudden commotion. The veteran agent in charge turns to his ace, a silver-haired prodigy named Lin Qi, and entrusts the hunt to him. Lin Qi notes that the target's resonance has vanished, but it doesn't matter. With a flash of his golden eyes, he declares he'll smoke him out, and metal begins to rip itself from the very architecture around them. The scene then flashes back 2 months, to the site of a ruined, desolate building. A younger Lin Qi had just arrived, listening to a subordinate's report on the situation. The agent explains that their vice captain successfully cornered a monster inside, but Lin Qi's face pales with alarm. He immediately snaps an order for the vice captain to evacuate, leaving his subordinate utterly baffled. With a chilling urgency, Lin Qi commands him to radio the order. He knows this isn't a simple hunt, it's a death trap. But before his subordinate can radio for an evacuation, Lin Qi takes matters into his own hands. The agent can only watch in shock as a vortex of metal rips from the ground. He realizes Lin Qi is pulling the very rebar from the building's foundation, using almost no elemental power. This is the highest form of his art, the legendary myriad sword strike. The entire structure implodes, and from the dust emerges the furious vice captain. He roars, demanding to know who dared interfere while he was training his rookies on a stabilized monster. Standing before him, Lin Qi gives a crisp salute, introducing himself as the new recruit. The vice captain and his subordinate are completely stunned. This is the newcomer assigned to them? He demands to know why Lin Qi is wearing a captain's uniform, but the prodigy just coolly explains it's a normal coat radiating a powerful aura. With that chaotic first meeting over, the flashback ends, returning us to the present. The vice captain frantically warns Lin Qi not to mess around. Destroying this plaza would mean a debt of 20,000 years, but Lin Qi simply ignores him, his golden eyes flaring as he commands the metal to come forth. A massive torrent of golden, crystalline shards erupts, twisting and forming under his absolute control. The shards fill the entire plaza, hovering menacingly over the terrified participants below. They realize he's not attacking, but scanning, forcing his own elemental power into every single person. Our monster lord stands perfectly still as the energy washes over him, a forced scan to smoke out the target. He feels his transcended genes stir, but knows his monster genes can easily suppress the signal. It seems he's caught. As long as this shorty is around, using his other powers is off the table. He glances at Jiyu, quietly warning her to keep her distance and not to act rashly. Deep down, however, another part of him is confident, certain that everything is going to be just fine. Lin Qi's golden eyes finally lock onto his target, a cold declaration echoing in his mind. Found you, Blue Flame. The golden shards instantly change direction, whipping past the other terrified participants. They converge on our boy, who immediately starts his performance, screaming about why he's the one being targeted. With a flourish, Lin Qi lists off the criminal's past deeds and officially places him under arrest. The student's head saved earlier can only stare in disbelief, unable to process what's happening. Even the other participants are confused, recalling that the wanted criminal Blue Flame is supposed to be a fire user. Our hero continues his act, frantically claiming he's a metal attribute as the golden constructs press in. But as a crystalline shard hovers inches from his face, a sudden, strange clarity cuts through the panic. He can feel it, he can actually sense the movement of the elements within the metal, seeing their very structure. A dangerous thought sparks in his mind. If he can see it so clearly, couldn't he just rearrange it himself? Bo Liang mutters that imitating an element is nearly impossible, unless you can perfectly sense and replicate it. With a slight tap of his foot, our boy casually asks if this is what he meant. He even scoffs at Lin Qi's dramatic chant, thinking what a ridiculous phrase that was. And just like that, he forges his own celestial starstrike sword, perfectly stable on the very first try. The researcher's mind reels he learned a complex technique from the myriad sword star chart just by seeing it once? The veteran agent is still stuck on the details, reminding Lin Chi that Blue Flame is a fire user, but this kid is using metal. Lin Chi just smirks, posing a simple question. Does using fire automatically make you a fire attribute? He explains that with enough skill, even a metal attribute user can easily create flames. By manipulating the metal elements to achieve extreme velocity, he can generate intense heat and friction. The result is a technique that mimics a fire attack, the devastating tremor of a burning star. His subordinate is completely floored, marveling at how Lin Chi's control has only grown stronger since graduation. The agent's mind races, could this new kid really be the infamous Blue Flame, hiding his true identity? As the brilliant technique unfolds, the subordinate can't help his fanboy moment, wishing he could learn such a move. Lin Chi's eyes narrow, his intent clear as he prepares to vanquish his target once and for all. He unleashes a devastating rain of ignited swords, a storm of fire and steel meant to incinerate his foe. But suddenly, a massive wave of pure blue energy erupts, completely swallowing the battlefield. The fiery swords are instantly neutralized, shattering against an unseen watery barrier. Lin Chi's ultimate attack is effortlessly dismantled, fizzling out into nothing. The veteran agent watches in disbelief, stunned by the sheer force of this water power that shielded everyone. Then, a new figure steps forward, coolly informing them that this academy is now under her protection. Her eyes burn with cold fury, warning them that bullying her students comes with a heavy price. She tells the agents to go play their games somewhere else, and to stop causing trouble on her turf. The veteran agent frantically whispers to Lin Chi, telling him to be polite. This is Senior Shang Guangque. But that warning comes a little too late, as a predatory smirk spreads across her face. Oh? She challenges him directly, a colossal water dragon materializing to teach this insolent brat some manners. The subordinate agent is stunned. Her elemental lifeform is so real he thinks he's witnessing the birth of a 5-star transcender. Lin Chi grits his teeth and calls for a retreat, vowing to come back with nearly 20 more agents to deal with her. But his threat feels empty as the massive water dragon looms over them, a silent promise of annihilation. A quick flashback reveals this fiery personality is nothing new, with her mentor once advising her to tone it down. Back in the present, she forms a water scythe, demanding to know how their elite team failed to identify their target's true attribute. She reveals a critical piece of intel. She was monitoring the campus when the lab was destroyed, and no one left. The monster lord's eyes widen slightly. Has been cornered, or so she thinks. The veteran agent has seen enough, quickly grabbing Lin Chi and dragging him away before things get worse. Our boy decides to play it cool, trying to change the subject as the agents flee. He casually remarks that keeping an eye on this massive institute must be quite the exhausting task for her. But Shang Guangque just stretches languidly, admitting she doesn't have time to watch everyone, every day. Then, she closes the distance, her instincts telling her that despite everything, he doesn't seem like a bad person. A pointed cough from the sidelines breaks the tension as Jiyu makes her presence known. Shang Guangque's attention immediately shifts, playfully pinching Jiyu's cheeks and encouraging her to get stronger. With a final command for them to study hard, the terrifying 4-star transcender takes her leave. As the dust settles, the leader of the grateful participants remarks on Shang Guangque's awful taste in men, a fact our boy silently agrees with. He then leans in with a creepy glint in his eye, telling the guy to bring Xiao Tao to Jiyu's dorm for a special treat. From a distance, Bo Liang watches them, calculating their odds in the upcoming supernova selection. Despite their low awakening rates, he believes they have a real shot at the first round, and he's ready to win some bets on it. Meanwhile, in a briefing room, other team leaders brag about their own elite students, confident in their chances. When they hear a first-year team is joining, one of the more arrogant teachers scoffs first years don't even qualify. But right on cue, Bo Liang makes his entrance with a wide, confident grin. Adjusting his glasses, he coolly suggests they all make a little wager on the outcome. That night, however, a new problem arises in the dorms. Far from the eyes of any teachers, the leader of our boy's new faction is being poached, offered a staggering 1,000 vials of life essence to betray his team. The poacher leans in with a smug grin, reminding the leader how much his sister needs that life essence. But he claims there's an even bigger prize, something beyond his wildest dreams. His mysterious benefactor, a young master fan, has a guaranteed method for awakening. The leader's stoic expression finally cracks. Awakening? This was the one thing he desperately needed. The poacher presses his advantage, mocking his repeated failures and his sister's struggles. He grabs the young man's collar, declaring this is his one chance to rewrite his family's destiny. But the leader looks up with cold, unwavering eyes, telling him to get his dirty hands off. The poacher laughs it off, accusing him of getting arrogant just because he has a new, powerful ally. With a sharp shove, the leader pushes his hand away, declaring his loyalty is not for sale. The poacher is left completely stunned, unable to comprehend the absolute rejection. The poacher grabs Zhao Sheng's collar, screaming his name in sheer disbelief. He furiously asks if he's a fool who can't see the consequences of defying the Fan family. He warns that this pride will cost him everything, especially his one shot at awakening. But Zhao Sheng just adjusts his collar with a smug grin, completely unfazed. With a powerful shove, he pushes the man back, declaring his brother is not someone to be underestimated. The poacher stumbles, his patience gone, and threatens to make sure Zhao Sheng never sleeps peacefully again. Zhao Sheng's grin only widens. He says it's better he doesn't awaken, because if he did, he'd fight them to the death. Absolutely livid, the poacher can only call him what he is, a complete mad dog. His fists ignite in a swirl of flame as he promises to give Zhao Sheng a lesson he'll never forget. But Zhao Sheng stands firm, his own resolve burning, ready to repay the debt to his brother with his very life. But Zhao Sheng suddenly changes his tune, claiming he has urgent matters to attend to tonight. The poacher just laughs in his face, calling him a coward and threatening to just beat him down right here. His parting shot echoes through the night. Zhao Sheng is a worthless coward, and his sister will die because of him. Meanwhile, watching from the darkness, Wu Yin notes that approaching anyone around Xing Kun seems impossible. But the man beside him, Shizai, simply smirks. He had hoped to be lenient, but now he'll have to get ruthless. A short while later, Zhao Sheng and a young woman named Xiao Tao arrive at a nondescript door. He knocks, announcing their presence to the big brother inside. The door swings open to reveal our protagonist, arms crossed with an unnerving, smug look on his face. He leans in with a sinister grin, asking if they're ready for their special, hellish training. His expression then turns dead serious, giving them their first instruction for this training from hell. Close your eyes. The training begins, but Zhao Sheng has a creative solution. He starts taking off his socks. He explains that it's to prevent them from peeking, pulling one off with a flourish. He then tries to force the stinky sock onto Xiao Tao's face, who looks utterly horrified by the assault. Our protagonist sighs, calling off the blindfold idea. The most important thing now is for them to trust him completely. He leans in, his expression dead serious, telling them to entrust their very lives to him. Zhao Sheng immediately agrees without hesitation, turning to Xiao Tao for her answer. But she has a different question on her mind, asking if he is the infamous Blue Flame. The revelation hits Zhao Sheng like a truck. His big brother is a legendary figure. He whirls on Xiao Tao, demanding to know how she could have possibly figured that out. She explains her logic. The exterminators wouldn't hunt him without reason, and she recalled Senior Lin Qi using that name. She explains she was paying close attention, noting his exaggerated reaction was completely faked. She also observed Jiyu, whose usual restraint was replaced by an uncharacteristic, cold detachment. Zhao Sheng is stunned by his sister's intellect, to which she dryly remarks that one of them has to be smart. Our protagonist smirks, finally confirming her suspicion. He is indeed the Blue Flame who destroyed the Fan family's lab. With that piece of the puzzle, Xiao Tao realizes their final test was so strange because he had a target on his back. Zhao Sheng's mind is completely blown by the revelation. She continues, stating this proves the Fan family was hiding unethical research and that she has no choice but to trust him. Her brother grabs her, insisting that since he's committed to following his hero, she has to join them too. With a newfound fire in his eyes, he declares they are both all in, ready for whatever special training he has planned. And so, their training begins with 2 huge bottles of a glowing blue liquid, with disembodied hands floating eerily inside. Without a second thought, Zhao Sheng chugs the entire bottle down to the last drop. Xiao Tao follows suit, her stomach feeling like it's about to burst, but their new leader just calmly tells them it'll be absorbed soon enough. He smirks, confirming that yes, this is high-grade life essence fluid, stolen straight from the Fan family's lab. The siblings are floored by the sheer extravagance. Zhao Sheng can't believe it, while Xiao Tao realizes this is what true commitment looks like. But the danger quickly dawns on them for the unawakened. Consuming this much at once is a massive risk to their lives. Xiao Tao's mind races, deducing he learned this high-risk method from the lab, and wonders what secret device he has hiding from them. He simply smiles, and tells them it's time to close their eyes. With a swift movement, he knocks them both out cold, a far more effective method than asking for blind trust. Looking down at their unconscious forms, he admits to himself that his monster gene must remain a secret. The only way forward is to force their awakening through a nightmare, wishing them a good dream straight from hell. He begins the procedure, carefully extending his monstrous tendrils towards Xiao Tao's neck. He knows her transcended genes are volatile. Even the slightest stimulation could make them go berserk. But for the others, with their weaker potential, he can be far more aggressive, weaving his own monster genes directly into their souls. He knows they're now experiencing a nightmare born from the deepest fears of their subconscious. And just like that, Xiao Tao finds herself in a terrifying dreamscape, collapsed in a field of red-soaked grass. She recognizes her childhood pajamas, the blood and the small teddy bear lying just a few feet away. A cold dread washes over her as she realizes it's that same horrible nightmare again. But this time is different. The bear's seams rip open, revealing a monstrous maw lined with jagged teeth. Her once-cherished toy grows into a hulking, nightmarish beast, far more revolting than she could have ever imagined. Miles away, Jiyu freezes in her tracks, sensing the immense, dark energy. Something is definitely off, something is wrong with him. Elsewhere, 2 exterminators are on patrol, with Lin Chi teasing his partner Xing Kun for having a dog's nose. From the shadows, an unknown rival watches, vowing to expose the one they call Blue Flame. But the 2 exterminators' light banter is cut short by a sudden, urgent alert. Their faces go pale as they see the message on their device. This is bad. The North District supply station has been attacked, and every available agent is being called in. On the scene, a support agent with enhanced hearing reports the chilling situation. The building is destroyed, but there are no signs of survivors or monsters. He confidently reports to HQ, boasting that his team helped take down the Earth Dragon and can handle this. After all, he smirks. Nothing can escape his transcendent hearing ability. But a split second later, a strange sound slices through the night. The agent's confidence shatters into pure terror. Something is closing in on them at impossible speed. The agents rush to the scene, preparing a dragon entrapment formation, but find nothing. The hearing specialist reels back in confusion. He swears he heard them just meters away. How is this possible? Before he can process it, a violent surge of blue energy erupts from the ground, engulfing the entire team. His specialized headphones, his greatest asset, are blasted from his head and clatter uselessly to the dirt. The unseen force slams into the ground right where they stood. The rest of the team is thrown into chaos, already wounded and realizing they're fighting an invisible monster. One of the female agents desperately throws up a glowing blue barrier to defend her comrades. But the invisible attack slices through her defense like it's paper, tearing into her shoulder. Her eyes widen in pure terror. This creature's power is immense, at least a 4th-stage threat. With no other choice, she sacrifices her own blood, unleashing a final, desperate Mercury Dragon Trap eruption. A dome of crimson energy erupts a blood prison cage born from her own life force. The team's captain screams at her to stop, but she yells back that this cage won't hold the 4th-stage monster for long. With a blood-soaked, bittersweet smile, she accepts their fate. They won't last until rescue arrives. She turns to her sisters, apologizing for the terrible sacrifice she's about to ask of them. There's only one way out of this, she explains. A chance to save the captain's life using her technique. Has always been their shield, their protector, but now, it's their turn to protect him. Her comrades don't hesitate, grabbing their struggling captain and holding him fast against his will. Their combined power surges into a vortex, a final plea for him to escape and ensure their sacrifice means something. With a gut-wrenching scream of denial, he's launched away, propelled by the force of their final act. Landing hard, he looks back in anguish, filled with regret. If only he had been stronger. But his grief is cut short by a sound in the distance, a chillingly familiar noise. It's not just one invisible monster. He realizes with dawning horror there might be 2, or even 3. With no time left and nowhere to hide, he knows he has to report this intel immediately. He frantically pulls out his phone, but a glaring error message stops him cold. The sheer elemental power in the air is jamming the signal. He has no choice but to run. As he sprints for his life, he knows he's been spotted, the monster hot on his trail. He keeps his eyes glued to the screen, desperately begging for the call to connect. But each attempt ends in failure, the same mocking error beeping over and over. Then, just as all hope seems lost, the screen flickers to life. A connection. He yells his report into the device, warning HQ of at least 3 4-star invisible monsters. With the report sent, a bloody smile creeps across the agent's face. Now he can finally go all out. He braces for the end, but suddenly, a massive wave of friendly power washes over the area. He looks up, recognizing the signature. Of course, the first to arrive would be none other than Shangguan Kui. The 4-star transcender lands, apologizing for being late and warning him about the monsters. But they're already gone. She coolly deduces they fled to avoid a real fight, having a far more important goal in mind. Elsewhere, one of those monsters thinks to himself that humanity has grown far too comfortable. He believes a little chaos is necessary to toughen them up for the real disaster that's coming. Jiyu watches from the corner of her room as he dangles 2 unconscious classmates, trying to resist his monstrous urges. He turns to her with a wicked grin. teasing that if he can't hold back, she's the first one he'll eat. Her face contorts in pure disgust as she tells the vile creature to get lost. He explains to a skeptical Jiyu that while he couldn't risk implanting monster flesh himself, it's a perfect shortcut for those without special genes. He notes that Xiao Tao's dream is a simple, typical fear response. Zhao Sheng, however, is a different story, muttering about killing someone, a sign of immense inner turmoil. In his nightmare, his eyes flare with a blue light as he screams murderously, consumed by pure rage. And just like that, both he and Xiao Tao jolt awake, gasping as they return to the real world. The Monster Lord greets them with a smug, knowing smile, congratulating them on their successful awakening. The two of them are completely bewildered, trying to understand what just happened to them. Their eyes widen in unison as the shock and realization finally hit them. Zhao Sheng is instantly overcome with emotion, bursting into a flood of grateful tears. He drops to the ground in a deep bow, pledging to become a shield for the big brother who granted him this power. The Monster Lord casually waves off his praise, telling him he's still a long way from being useful. He explains that he kickstarted their powers by forcing their transcended genes into a berserk state. It's a simple survival instinct, artificially triggered to accelerate their growth at an insane rate. With that, he drops the bombshell. They have 1 week to reach the 3-star transcender threshold for the supernova selection, and as a final instruction, he tells them to only drink life essence fluid before shutting the door. Left alone, Zhao Sheng and Xiao Tao are completely shell-shocked, struggling to believe this is all real. But the feeling of his genes buzzing with power convinces Zhao Sheng. Their big brother is a true legend. Xiao Tao, however, is stuck on one detail. Did he really just say they were entering the supernova selection? Zhao Sheng is brimming with newfound confidence, declaring that if their brother wishes it, they'll do it. She has to remind him of his track record, but he just laughs off the fact he was beaten by nearly all their classmates last term. And just like that, 1 week flies by, and the supernova selection is finally set to begin. Elsewhere, one of the bullies who beat Zhao Sheng down is casually chugging a vial of life essence fluid. His friend asks where he got it, and the blonde poacher smirks, saying the source should be obvious. He proudly admits he stole it from Zhao Sheng, who had pathetically hidden his supply in a pair of old shoes. Why would he fear a nobody like that? He's just a bootlicker for the Jiyu gang, while his own boss is from the esteemed Fan family. He laughs, calling Zhao Sheng a coward who hasn't even dared to show his face since their last encounter. Just then, Wu Yin appears, and the bully continues his rant, only for Wu Yin to calmly warn him not to underestimate Zhao Sheng. The poacher sneers, accusing Wu Yin of wanting to crawl back to Jiyu's side now that Zhao Sheng has resources. But Wu Yin just stares back, completely unfazed, and tells him to check the campus network. It's the supernova selection today, after all, and the entire school can watch it live. The bully and his friend are glued to a phone, realizing the live broadcast has already started. The host is none other than Slaughter Rabbit, a famous internet sensation and white attribute transcender. Floating gracefully, she begins by introducing the first of the top 3 contenders, Team 23, the Crimson Flames. The bully immediately recognizes their leader, Young Master Fan, as the host details the team's power all fire users with impressive cultivation rates. The spotlight shines on the new captain, Fan Shizai, heir to the Fan family and a bona fide teenage prodigy. A 3-star transcender with a staggering 90% transcended gene count, his future looks terrifyingly bright. Slaughter Rabbit playfully hovers above him, encouraging the audience to watch his performance closely. With the first powerhouse introduced, she smoothly transitions to the next team on the list, an all-female squad known as the Rootbreakers, whose captain is currently recognized as the school's strongest student. This captain, a senior with 85% transcended water genes, is infamous for once demolishing the entire Crimson Flames team with a single attack. And finally, the third powerhouse team, rumored to possess both the strongest sword and the strongest shield. With the introductions complete, Slaughter Rabbit officially kicks off the first round in a dense forest arena. Meanwhile, the bully and his friends are glued to the broadcast, wondering who this most arrogant team could possibly be. Wu Yin explains their reputation comes from being a team of first years with the audacity to challenge the seniors. The bully's jaw drops as he realizes it's Xing-kun's team, baffled as to how they even qualified. He can accept Jiyu as captain, but his mind short-circuits when he hears Zhao Sheng and Zhao Tao are on the roster. It's impossible. Every member has to be awakened, and Zhao Sheng, he was a nobody. The bully gulps, the shocking implication finally dawning on him. He tries to save face, scoffing that even if it took Zhao Sheng 2 years to awaken, his pathetic gene rate means nothing. But then he remembers Zhao Sheng took every transcendence course like his life depended on it. Wu Yin adds another detail. Last year's students don't just know Zhao Sheng, they respectfully call him Brother Zhao. And just like that, a crowd appears, led by a second-year captain who's thrilled to see Zhao Sheng and Zhao Tao again. Zhao Sheng and Xiao Tao are clearly not happy about this little reunion. The captain smirks, asking if they remember the fateful day he left the academy. The day he beat almost all of them single-handedly before disappearing. He explains that as soon as Zhao Sheng's team was announced, every student from their year banded together to find him. After all, an unawakened loser, suddenly appearing with such an arrogant team name. They just couldn't let that slide. So they've all agreed to settle the score right here and now, with a series of one-on-one duels. But from the back, our MC just grins, casually draping an arm over Zhao Sheng. Impressed he managed to attract even more hate than him. He then steps forward, looking over the pathetic mob with disdain and asking if this is really all they could gather. Meanwhile, in the viewing room, another instructor challenges Bo Liang's faith in his freshman team. The red-haired teacher lays out the odds. 6 teams of second years, 30 students in total, are gunning for them. He throws down his own bet with a smirk, 100 vials of life essence fluid that they won't make it. And just like that, the floodgates open, with bets piling up until a staggering 300 vials are on the line. Poor Bo Liang can only sweat under the pressure as the other faculty members mockingly ask if he can handle the loss. The red-haired teacher then smugly inquires about the meaning behind their team name, Doomsday Starlight. Back on the field, the Dark Horse captain echoes the sentiment, laughing at their supposed arrogance. But our MC's eyes are shadowed, his thoughts far beyond this petty squabble. For him, Starlight kindles flames. He knows he can't save the world alone. His true mission is to ignite the sparks around him before the real apocalypse. So he scoffs at their challenge. Individual battles? As if any of them were worthy of his time. He tells them plainly, their only hope is to come at him all at once. The Dark Horse captain's face contorts in disbelief and rage. His whole team erupts, calling our hero an arrogant bastard for expecting them to gang up on him. But as they shout, Zhao Sheng steps forward, a knowing look on his face. He stomps the ground, telling them to get on with it since his big brother has already spoken. Before the captain can even process this, Zhao Sheng unleashes a brutal strike right into his gut. The blow is so powerful it nearly folds the captain in half. With a savage technique, the Iron Mountain Lean, Zhao Sheng sends his own ally flying. He stands over the fallen captain, explaining that they can use their powers now, unlike before. Meanwhile, our MC casually wipes his hands, deciding he's had a change of heart about the terms. Back in the observation room, Bo Liang tells the others it's too late to back out now. The other faculty members crowd around, demanding to know Zhao Sheng's background. Bo Liang calmly explains that Zhao Sheng only has a 39% gene rate, a complete nobody in terms of power. But while he couldn't learn transcendent skills, he became a martial arts prodigy, a genius in his own right. He was so dedicated that he became a mentor to his entire class, earning their absolute trust. Before leaving for the test, he gave them one final lesson, single-handedly wiping the floor with all of them. The red-haired teacher scoffs, mocking Zhao Sheng's low potential even after awakening his power. Unfazed, Bo Liang coolly adjusts his glasses, asking if he'd like to make another bet on that. The teacher leans in, sneering at the idea that winning one small fight secures anything. He calls the students weak, nothing but delicate flowers raised in a greenhouse to be used as fuel for the truly strong. Back in the test, Zhao Sheng's former squad emerges, curious to meet the man their old leader now calls Big Brother. One of them smirks, mocking the students for following a fool and provoking a fight they can't possibly win. Their captain, Ma Xiaolong, scoffs at the idea of fighting mere beginners, his eyes blazing with fiery contempt. Flames erupt around him as he declares that since they insisted, he'll be happy to grant their death wish. But as the battle begins, his own teammate makes a shocking claim. After this, he's taking over as captain. Ma Xiaolong, completely lost in his own hype, roars that his superior power will easily crush these freshmen. His supposed ally, however, thinks otherwise, coldly noting that the real Big Brother is far stronger than this idiot. In a stunning act of betrayal, he turns and blasts his own captain point blank with a searing energy beam. Before he can even savor the moment, a green-haired fighter blitzes in from above, knocking him out instantly. The newcomer grins, amused at how this whole team went all out only to be so useless. Their captain is fragile as a doll. Not even pausing for breath, he unleashes another devastating blast, already calling out for his next victim. The announcements echo through the forest. Captain Xiaoran is defeated. Team Flying High is eliminated. Survivors can only stare in disbelief, realizing they never even stood a chance against that incredible speed. Up in the trees, a bunny-eared girl recognizes the monster tearing through the ranks as a fourth grader, Chen Xia. In a flash, another team is wiped out, their captain blasted into unconsciousness. Then another, and another. as Chen Xia carves a path of destruction through the senior teams with a wild grin. Finally, his rampage brings him face to face with his last targets, and he sneers that it's the freshman's turn. He dives from the sky, gleefully announcing that he enjoys dealing with rookies the most. But on the ground, the recently betrayed Ma Xiaolong looks on, sarcastically wondering if this is the captain he's supposed to trust. The bunny-eared spectator screams into her phone that Team Doomsday Starlight is done for. But as Chen Xia's windblade closes in, our captain doesn't even flinch. The senior's confident smirk vanishes, replaced with pure disbelief as his attack just stops. He's been caught by a single hand, wreathed in a golden, transcendent light, and in that same instant, the very ground beneath Chen Xia begins to glow ominously. A massive crystalline spike erupts from the earth, shooting upwards with incredible force. It slams directly into the fourth grader, blasting him into the air as our hero casually watches. Chen Xia's eyes roll back, his body going limp from the sheer force of the counterattack. Our captain examines his hand, thoughtfully trying to name his new move, the Kidney Pringer Star Sword, and the bunny girl's commentary flips entirely, now screaming with excitement that Chen Xia has been defeated. With the fourth year taken care of, our captain steps over the fallen bodies, calling out his real targets. He smirks, announcing that it's his teammates who need the practice, and the second years seem just right. The captain of the Wind and Sand team, Chen Xia's own leader, erupts from the trees in a fury. Down on the ground, a battered Ma Xiaolong can only stare in awe, realizing the true depth of his new captain's power. The green-haired fighter rallies his team, their philosophy clear: ambush, swarm, and eliminate the arrogant fools. But our boy just flashes a predatory grin, practically daring them to come be his punching bags. One of their members, Xingkun, surges forward, recognizing that this freshman's skill is no fluke. He unleashes a strike, only to have his arm caught mid-swing by an unseen opponent. It's Zhao Sheng, who calmly informs him that Big Brother wants them to be the warm-up. Xingkun just scoffs, recognizing the instructor but dismissing him as a low-level rookie who has no chance of stopping him. Zhao Sheng unleashes his dragon technique, a roaring blast of pure blue energy, but the attack simply washes over his opponent, dissipating into nothing. Xingkun mocks his pathetic 39% gene rate, questioning where this insect got his courage. But Zhao Sheng retorts that power isn't about size, as a dangerous red aura flares around his hand. His opponent laughs, ready to teach him a lesson in overwhelming despair. A split second later, that smug confidence evaporates into pure, undiluted shock. Zhao Sheng moves in a crimson blur, landing a strike before Xingkun can even register it. The senior fighter finally understands Zhao Sheng is using his own blood to fuel his technique. It's an insane gamble. By internalizing the dragon, he's lost all ranged ability and tied his life to it. Zhao Sheng just grins, confident that his sheer effort will crush his opponent's innate talent. Acknowledging his inferior genes, he unleashes his final, life-or-death art, Dragon's Descent. Elsewhere in the forest, another confrontation is underway, as a pink-haired fighter has Xiao Tao completely bound. She's done her homework. Xiao Tao wasn't even an awakener 2 weeks ago, so how is she already a 3-star transcendent? Xiao Tao stammers out a weak excuse about just getting emotional easily, a line that fools absolutely no one. The pink-haired girl scoffs, pitying her foe's low potential, before summoning massive, pillar-like roots from the ground. With such limited talent, she declares Xiao Tao will never be anything more than a small fry. The colossal wooden spikes slam down, aiming to crush her completely. But Xiao Tao reacts in a flash, narrowly dodging the devastating impact with surprising agility. Her attacker notes the impressive, evasive skill, but then her eyes catch something on her own vine. A strange red blossom has bloomed on the branch, a peach blossom, where none should be. Her mind races. How can flowers bloom on rootless vines from a user with such low potential? The horrifying realization hits her: these are blood peach blossoms, nourished by Xiao Tao's own life force. She screams, calling her opponent insane for using a technique that will drain her completely dry. But hidden away, Xiao Tao is steeled for this, remembering her brother's words. Meanwhile, a new challenger emerges, taunting our hero for letting a woman stand in front. The man with metallic dreads smirks, confident in his plan to distract him for a pincer attack. Our protagonist just smiles back, completely unbothered, claiming he's not one for heroics. As if on cue, his partner leaps from the trees, plunging a golden spear right at him. But her face twists from confident ambition into pure, utter disbelief. Without even turning, he casually deflects the ambush, leaving her ally stunned by his seasoned skill. The dreadlocked brawler can only stare, his mind reeling. This freshman is a battle-hardened veteran, but our hero isn't even fighting. He's just using this tournament to train his partner. Jiu steps up, purple lightning crackling as she announces the activation of her star chart. Her opponent scoffs at the very idea star charts don't need to be activated. And then, his smug confidence shatters as a long-forgotten legend surfaces in his mind. The one theoretically perfect star chart, a power so vast it was said to create its own realm. He realizes with dawning horror that she has a 95% gene rate, the highest in history. She focuses all of that latent power, the air itself vibrating around her, and unleashes her ultimate technique, the magnetic star. A blinding sphere of pure magnetic force erupts, ready to reshape the entire battlefield. The faces of her rivals twist in disbelief, their arrogance vaporized by this impossible pressure. Every single one of them is frozen, realizing they picked a fight with a living legend. The girl who beat down Xiao Tao can only stare, her own power feeling like a child's toy. All across the training ground, jaws are on the floor. What kind of monster did they provoke? Standing in the epicenter, Jiyu unleashes her 3-star transcendence, the magnetic star. She calmly notes the automatic lightning barrier incinerating a stray leaf, a simple but effective defense. But of course, there's always one who thinks they know better, another ambusher stepping from the shadows. With a 44% Icebird star chart, she unleashes a storm of feather needles from above. She smirks, convinced that a passive defense can't possibly block a continuous, overwhelming assault. Her countless ice shards begin to rain down, crashing against the crackling purple lightning. Undeterred, the ice user goes all in, challenging Jiyu to handle her next move. She summons a massive shard of ice, her ultimate technique, the ice cicada, but it's utterly useless, disintegrating against the sheer power of Jiyu's lightning. The ambusher's jaw hits the floor, the amount of energy required is simply absurd. Nearby, another defeated rival can only stare, finally understanding the chasm created by a 95% gene rate. But amidst the awe, Jiyu looks a little distressed, calling out to Xingkun for help. It seems she's gotten herself stuck inside her own overwhelming power. She stares blankly at her hand, confused by the crackling energy she can't quite turn off. Suddenly, a massive beam of purple energy accidentally erupts, firing right past him. He just barely flinches, calmly telling her she really needs more practice controlling that power. Seeing her confusion, Xingkun gives her a new mission. Use those 2 fighters over there to familiarize herself with her power. Jiyu, still surrounded by crackling energy, gives a simple, almost robotic okay. Their new opponents are already on guard, a woman with her hair in a bun and a man with pipe-like dreadlocks. The woman asks her captain how they should possibly break through Jiyu's insane defense, but the captain scoffs, dismissing Jiyu as a genetically aggressive junior and telling his team to just ignore her. Their real target is the captain, and another teammate with crystalline wings immediately takes flight, heading straight for Xingkun. Xingkun, however, looks utterly bored by the attempt, calmly warning them that picking a fight with him will only speed up their elimination. The dreadlocked rival sneers, saying he's heard that exact same threat from countless newly enrolled juniors before. He lunges forward, hand outstretched, absolutely certain that this cocky freshman won't be any different. With a roar, he unleashes a swirling vortex of flying sand from below as his winged partner attacks from the sky. The winged woman unleashes a volley of feather needles from above. Her captain grins, confident he'll teach these juniors to be more low-key in the future. But as his sandstorm swirls, he realizes in shock that his target somehow dodged every single needle. Suddenly, Xingkun is right there, asking if he dislikes his triggering skills. He casually informs the stunned senior that he can't be eliminated yet, as he's needed for sparring practice. The captain is sent flying, his mind reeling, wondering what kind of impossible power this is. He and his winged partner are both effortlessly swatted out of the air. Looking up, he sees Jiyu crackling with purple lightning, cursing this monstrous freshman team. But this entire exchange is being monitored from a control room. An official with an eye patch stares grimly, noting that Xingkun's performance is impossible for a kid with a 1% gene rate and orders a full investigation. Back in the control room, the eye patch official, teacher Lei Yan, is being openly challenged by his subordinate. The man coolly questions his authority, pointing out that Dean Qing hasn't given any orders like this. He even hints at political maneuvering, asking if Lei Yan is trying to pull strings with Vice Dean Fan, leaving him speechless. But before the standoff can escalate, the entire room is filled with the wail of emergency sirens. A phone lights up with a chilling notification. A yellow monster alert has just been activated for Qingchu City. Monsters are flooding in, and all exterminators ranked Peak 3-star and above are ordered to mobilize immediately. Elsewhere, the calm and collected Dean Qing is asked if the supernova selection should be cancelled amid the chaos. He dismisses the idea, stating that headquarters wants it to continue, believing the situation is still under control. He sees this as a perfect test. The selection is designed to weed out those who can't handle a real disaster. As a new group of participants heads toward a dark tunnel, They get the full briefing on the escalating crisis. Meanwhile, a support agent named Song Yin is frantically trying to get a lock on their targets. He warns his team that there are at least 4 invisible monsters, and they're likely summoning the lesser beasts. But as he rushes to the front line, his senses suddenly go haywire. Only one monster remains. He finds Shangguan Kui and praises her for taking down 3 so quickly, but she furiously shuts him down. They've only been fighting 1 this whole time. The other 2 vanished as soon as they arrived. Song Yin is stunned. He was sure he detected 4, which means 3 have disappeared without a trace. Shangguan Kui urges him to focus, telling him they have a shot at this one while the others are gone. She orders him to use his powers and locate the remaining 3 before they get ambushed. Without hesitation, he taps his headset, his eyes glowing with focused energy. He unleashes his Heavenly Lake star chart, sending out a wave of power to sense all elemental life. Like a drop hitting still water, his consciousness ripples outwards. His senses spread across the entire forest, listening for any trace of life. He gets an immediate lock on Shangguan Kui and her team, still locked in their desperate battle. He can also sense the waves of other monsters pouring in, along with the newly arrived support troops. But that's not what he's looking for. He pushes his power further, searching for the 3 invisible ones. He strains, focusing with everything he has, but there's only silence. His eyes snap open in disbelief. Nothing. He can't find them anywhere. How could this be? His sensory ability has never failed him like this before. A horrifying realization dawns on him. The 3 invisible monsters aren't here. They were never here. So if they weren't at the ambush site, the only question left is where could they possibly be? While the command center panics, other battles rage on, a massive water dragon tearing through the trees. Yu Xiong smirks, noting his opponent's incredible resilience but thinking his defeat is inevitable. But as he presses the attack, he feels a sudden, unnerving shift in the boy's energy. He watches in disbelief as the kid's transcended genes visibly strengthen right before his eyes. His teammates are just as stunned, realizing these are supposed to be low-level rookies. A cold dread washes over them. If this keeps up, these freshmen will soon surpass them all. Elsewhere, a blinding clash of purple lightning and swirling wind erupts in another corner of the forest. The dreadlock rival grunts in frustration. After half an hour, his opponent is fighting like she has infinite power. But Jiyu wasn't just enduring, she was learning. And now, a spark of understanding ignites in her eyes. He scoffs at his partner's concern, arrogantly asking if she's really scared of a single freshman. She's figured it out, realizing she can extend her own electromagnetic field. Instead of just defending, she focuses all her power into a single point for initial speed. With a look of cold resolve, she decides it's time to accelerate and go on the offensive. Jiyu becomes a living cannonball of purple lightning, blasting through the forest canopy. The dreadlock rival's arrogant smirk vanishes, replaced with disbelief at the incoming attack. She hurtles towards him, ready to release a massive blast of stored electricity. But right at the critical moment, her power fizzles out, leaving her confused and vulnerable. She lands awkwardly, realizing she's out of juice for external attacks. A sinister grin spreads across the rival's face. If she's out of power, then it's their turn to play. But just as he moves in for the kill, a calm voice declares that time's up, and Zhao Sheng appears from nowhere, gripping his neck. The dreadlock rival is completely stunned. This quiet nobody he'd written off just ambushed him effortlessly. Tossing the man aside, Zhao Sheng turns to Jiyu, coolly remarking that while her charge was impressive, she still couldn't have won. The upset is broadcast across the arena by a bunny-eared announcer, declaring Team Doomsday the Dark Horse victors. Back in the viewing room, the other participants are floored, and the bullies who mocked Zhao Sheng are now eating their words. One of them nervously backpedals, asking a friend to apologize to Zhao Sheng for accidentally breaking his life essence fluid. As the first phase ends, we get a glimpse of other powerful fighters like Ma Xiaolong, a reminder of the monsters still in the running. With the initial culling complete, the announcer declares the start of the second phase where only one team can be victorious. This time, it's not about strength. A reward is hidden in the arena, and the first team to find it wins it all. The bunny-eared announcer adds a little twist. Clues can also be won by defeating their on-site exterminators. Our hero reminds Jiyu of the grand prize, but she's running on empty, her electricity completely depleted. It would take at least 2 hours to recharge, she explains, just as the grateful participants they saved limp over. With a confident smirk, he tells her not to worry. Her fight is over, and he'll handle the rest himself. Meanwhile, another hotshot named Fan Shizai tells his crew that for him, the game's already won. He casually decides to split up, sending his team to gather clues while he goes off to try his luck. With an air of absolute self-assurance, Fan Shizai wanders off into the woods alone. But he's not as alone as he thinks. A secret voice transmission crackles to life in his ear, addressing him as young Master Fan. Turns out, 12 hours ago, Fan Shizai was getting a little pep talk from Dean Fan. The young master was smugly confident, already seeing himself as the strongest of his generation. He thought their family's takeover was years away, but Dean Fan corrects him the timeline has moved up. Their secret weapon, the everlasting blossom, is about to bloom in just 1 month. When it does, it will supercharge the area, allowing the Fan family to create hundreds of 4-star transcenders. And at the apex of it all, his brother and father will use the eternal flame to become the nation's first 5 stars. All this pressure now rests on Fan Shizai to become the MVP and lead their new world order. As for their little recruitment problem with Jiyu and the ever-annoying Xing Kun, Dean Fan's patience has run out. He orders Fan Shizai to find an opportunity to crush them. After all, their unique genes would be far more useful in a lab experiment. Fan Shizai accepts his uncle's dark orders with a sinister little smirk. He knows the whole competition is rigged, with the prize just meters away. But for the cameras broadcasting live, he has to pretend to be searching. He conjures a wisp of red flame, a tiny spark to begin his little show. He sends his fire spreading out, a flashy but empty probe of the forest. Of course, it finds nothing, and he smugly plans to repeat the act a few more times. But as he moves to his next search spot, he sees someone already there. It's Xing Kun, of all people, just casually standing in his path. Fan Shizai scoffs, thinking this lucky fool must have wandered here by chance. Then Xing Kun's eyes light up and he sprints off, leaving a stunned Fan Shizai to realize he's been beaten to the punch. Fan Shizai's mind reels. That's not a random sprint, it's a direct path to the reward. How could he possibly know the exact location? The confusion quickly curdles into pure rage. He scoffs, trying to convince himself that this nobody just got lucky again, disrupting his perfect plans. But a wicked grin spreads across his face. Luck can't change the fate of the lowly. Unseen by the participants, Dean Fan reveals his trump card, a hidden 4-star mental transcender guarding the prize. In his mind, Fan Shizai is the only one worthy. A peasant like Xing Kun doesn't stand a chance. He stands tall amidst the trees, absolutely certain that the reward will belong to him and him alone. But another player is moving through the forest, one who can smell the tantalizing energy of every transcender. Monster Lord practically drools at the thought, but reminds himself he can't just eat them. Not yet. He finds the spot easily, knowing this reward will evolve both his human and monster genes to the next level. Just as Monster Lord reaches the prize, he's cut off by the hidden guardian, Xing Kun. The guardian's eyes glow, instantly identifying his opponent's signature powers, blue flame and metal. He unleashes a volley of golden spikes, but Monster Lord just plays dumb, shouting that they've got the wrong guy. Watching from a distance, Fan Shizai is utterly confused. Who is this nobody? And where is the young master he was supposed to protect? He listens intently as the guardian calls the intruder Blue Flame, a name that seems to ring a bell. Xing Kun warns him to back off, vowing to expose his disguise if he doesn't retreat immediately. With a gesture, he commands his golden energy to return, forming a storm of crystalline shards. The entire area is consumed by a massive, blinding explosion. But when the light fades, Monster Lord is standing casually behind him, completely unharmed. Bound by his own power, the Guardian lies defeated, realizing his opponent knew his every move and was simply on another level. Fan Shizai can't believe his eyes. He wonders if Xing Kun threw the match on purpose. He's done watching. He gives the signal to his trump card. Take him down. A new agent steps forward, boasting that with all the high rankers gone, he's secretly the strongest one here. He thinks to himself that he just needs to stun this guy until his young master arrives. But Monster Lord doesn't even let him make a move, unleashing a crushing psychic shock. His eyes are dead calm, completely unfazed by the supposed strongest fighter. The agent starts to thank him for going easy, but a horrifying realization dawns: the attack isn't stopping. Panic floods his mind. This supernova selection is crucial for his master. He absolutely cannot fail. He tries to steel his resolve, pushing past a traumatic memory of someone he couldn't protect. But it's useless. The psychic assault intensifies as Monster Lord looms over him, utterly dominant. The agent's mind completely shatters under the psychic onslaught. Hes crushed by the sheer monstrosity of his opponent's will, unable to comprehend such mental power. And just like that, the self-proclaimed hidden ace is on his knees, utterly broken. Monster Lord sighs internally. Well, so much for keeping a low profile now. He decides to forget about it for now, and turns his attention to the glowing reward that has appeared. He picks up the orb, the robotic transcendent enhancement armor. His primary goal is finally within reach. But just as he secures his prize, his senses suddenly scream out a warning. His sharp gaze snaps to the window, peering into the dark woods outside. There, almost perfectly hidden in the undergrowth, is a secret hatch. The ground cracks as a massive paw print appears, revealing the aura of what lies beneath. The plan to expose them was a success. With the device in hand, he has everything he needs to set his real plan in motion. He's not here to save the world. He's here to shatter its fragile peace, and it all starts now. The device activates, releasing a horde of invisible monsters into the unsuspecting forest. Back in the control room, the sensory-type Song-yin jolts. He heard it. 3 monsters just broke off course, and their target is the institution, where all the freshmen are gathered for the supernova selection with 0 protection. A cold dread washes over the staff. What if this isn't a random attack, but a calculated diversion? Song-yin's mind floods with images of carnage. They've completely underestimated the monster's intelligence. Fan Shizai desperately tries to warn the combat team, shouting that it's a trap and the students are in danger. But the powerful transcender Shangguan Kui just scoffs, accusing him of being a coward trying to run away. His urgent warning is completely ignored, leaving him to curse their arrogance as they face the wrong threat. While the combat team engages the visible threat, their leader is busy posturing. Shangguan Kui grabs the sensory type, Song Yin, giving him a condescending lecture on how monsters are just failed mutations. He brags about losing his eye to a 5th-stage monster, insisting their intelligence is nothing compared to a human's. With a final, dismissive wave, he tells Song Yin not to overthink things and rallies his team to press the attack. He's completely convinced the only real problem is this single, invisible 4th-stage monster, a foe he believes they can handle. Meanwhile, at the safe institution, the guards on watch are getting restless, wishing for a bit more action. One of them gets a smack from his senior, who reminds him their job is to keep the students' auras from attracting the monster tide. But the younger agent is just too comfortable, musing about how monster tides are a thing of the past in their well-protected country. He wishes monsters would just disappear, completely oblivious to the silent blue death streaking towards the watchtower. And in a brutal flash of splintered wood and blood, their watch comes to a sudden, violent end. From another tower, a lone agent watches in disbelief as the 3rd watchtower simply vanishes. Panic erupts as the agents scramble, reporting an unknown invasion from the south with no enemy in sight. A pillar of azure flame confirms their worst fears as the order roars out for all units to converge on the south. Meanwhile, a system-wide announcement declares the supernova selection's first reward has been claimed with shocking speed. The winner, a girl named Xing Kun, hears the emergency broadcast interrupt her victory as that same blue flame streaks across the sky. Her mind races. Intruders, blue flames, an invisible enemy? This sounds exactly like the monster the high-rankers are fighting. Trusting her instincts, she immediately activates a skill, sending out a whisper on the wind to sense the battlefield. Her perception sweeps over the forest, catching a group of other participants running blindly through the trees. They finally sense it too, a ripple in the air, a sudden chill as an unseen threat bears down on them. But it's far too late, as a storm of invisible energy tears through their ranks, leaving only blood and chaos behind. Her mind races, connecting the dots. The intel said there were 3 invisible 4th-stage monsters. With no time to hesitate, she makes an executive decision, declaring the supernova selection officially over. She yells for all students to evacuate as they flee past the body of a fallen exterminator. On the ground, the veteran agent roars for his remaining squad to hold the line at all costs. She sends an urgent plea to Principal Ching, begging him to use his power to seal the entire forest. But in his office, a concerned aide argues against it, realizing a seal would doom the exterminators inside. The principal, however, cuts her off, stating that Slaughter Rabbit's decision is the correct one. His aide can only watch in shock as immense power begins to radiate from the old man. He floats towards the window, declaring that no matter the danger, their duty is to protect the weak. The monsters will not leave this arena. He proclaims that they will all face this threat with courage, and with a surge of green energy, Principal Ching unleashes his power. The wooden enigma assault. Down below, Jiyu and the other students can only stare in disbelief as the entire forest comes to life around them. Before she can even react, a living branch snakes out and snags her, lifting her off her feet. All across the arena, students are scooped up by the reanimated trees. This isn't an attack, it's a forced evacuation, as the forest itself begins to eject them. One by one, they're flung from the battleground, landing in a chaotic heap outside the school building. Jiyu tumbles through the air, only to be caught by our hero, who seems just as confused as she is. She angrily accuses him of something, but he quickly insists he was thrown out too, a victim of the principal's grand plan. He looks back, shouting at the old man for his reckless methods of clearing the field. But then his eyes widen, a dawning horror spreading across his face as he realizes the true cost of this evacuation. The wall of wood looms before them, an impenetrable barrier sealing off the school from the outside world. Our hero's enhanced senses are on high alert, yet he can't get a read on the exterminators inside a grim sign. He overhears other students piecing it together. The top fighters were sent to the tunnel, but the monsters appeared here instead. And the cold realization dawns on him. It was a trap. The monster's intelligence has been fatally underestimated. While he's processing this, another student with cable-like hair loses his cool, screaming that he's too powerful for this treatment. He declares himself a future exterminator, channeling raw green energy into his fist, ready to punch his way back in. But his grand attack does absolutely nothing, fizzling out against the magical barrier without leaving a scratch. Just then, a magenta-haired girl steps forward, calmly offering to handle it, claiming she can crack the principal's technique. Yellow and green energy swirls around her hand as she presses it against the wood, attempting to open a pathway. The arrogant student can only stare in disbelief, his bravado completely deflated as she prepares to succeed where he failed. But her attempt to go in alone is met with fierce opposition, not just from rivals, but her own teammates. Just then, another faction, the Rootbreakers, shows up, smugly announcing they'll be borrowing her passage. Their leader flashes a look of pure killing intent, a silent promise of what will happen if they're denied. The cable-haired student scoffs, basically telling them to go ahead if they have a death wish. And with that, the floodgates open as dozens of other ambitious students surge forward, eager to prove themselves. A self-satisfied smirk crosses his face. If they all want to rush in and get wiped out, so be it. But his bravado evaporates when we see the result. The ground is littered with the unconscious bodies of everyone who tried. While the failures pile up, a lone student cloaked in green energy simply phases through the wooden barrier, unnoticed by the chaos. The Monster Lord, watching from a distance, calmly declares that he'll be going in too, but not yet. His eyes burn with focus. He tells Ju to simply survive until he's ready to make his move. He turns to his companions, ordering them back. Now is not the time to be reckless. But as they pull away, another figure of interest appears. The so-called young master fan. His subordinate intercepts him, frantically explaining that the arena is a death trap and they need to retreat. The young master responds not with words, but with a hand clamped firmly around the man's throat. He's seething, demanding to know why he allowed someone named Shinkun to steal his prize. An intense blue flame ignites in his palm, so powerful his subordinate fears he's about to be erased. The terrified man sputters out an excuse, claiming he was hit by a mental attack and is still reeling. But then he reveals a crucial clue. This Jinkun is also known by the name Blue Flame. The information hangs in the air as the gears in the young master's head begin to turn. Back with our protagonist, he has new orders. They're not retreating, they're securing the area. He knows time is running out. He must reach 3-star transcendence before the next arena. The plan is to use the artificial device to fill the gaps in his genes and then construct his star chart. But the device, now an inert gray bracelet, is powerless after a single activation, and that one use cost him an entire vial of life essence fluid, such a painful waste. Thankfully, he has a solution: drink the fluid himself. He can then use his own body as a conduit to channel the energy directly into the bracelet. But after downing one, a horrifying calculation hits him. It'll take about 30 vials to fill it up. Worse, he realizes his own genes can't possibly compete with the monsters inside for that much energy. Meanwhile, deep within the now sealed arena, another participant finds herself trapped. The gray-haired girl can't even get a signal to livestream, so she decides to record her fight instead. With her floating sensors fanned out, her first priority is simple: find the monster. And just like that, a massive crystal eruption in the distance gives her the perfect target. She grins, ready to pull up her recording and bring her audience along for the show. But before she can, an invisible force shatters her phone in a flash of light. A razor-sharp projectile of pure energy slices through the dense forest, catching her completely off guard and sending her flying back. She slams hard against a tree trunk, the impact rattling her to the bone. Coughing, she realizes a last-second wind barrier is the only thing that saved her life, annoyed that she couldn't record the attack. A calm voice then calls out her code name, Slaughter Rabbit, as Principal Ching appears, explaining there are 3 invisible monsters here. Even as a 4-star transcender, he can't locate the third, and tasks her with finding and containing it herself. She understands her mission. If this last monster gets past her, everyone in the institution is done for. Wincing from a few broken ribs, she grimly jokes that the compensation for this job will be great for whoever inherits it. With no other option, she decides to go all out, gathering shimmering green energy around her. She unleashes her wind chant, a desperate attempt to locate her invisible foe. But her attacks slice through the empty woods. She can't find it, and the thought of 3 of them sends a chill down her spine. Suddenly, her senses flare up, catching movement that isn't the monster she was looking for. To her absolute horror, a group of students has arrogantly marched right back into the battlefield. She screams at them to get out of here, furious that these brats are throwing their lives away. But as her attention is on them, a shimmering force slams into her from behind the monster was waiting for an opening. Panic sets in. Even at full strength, she knows she wouldn't be able to save all of these idiots at once. Wounded but resolute, she takes command, telling the overconfident fools to create a windstorm to disrupt the monster's senses. The students eagerly comply, the cable-haired leader unleashing a gale, while another summons massive golden shields. He smirks, completely assured of their victory, boasting that they came fully prepared and on high alert. Together, they erect a towering wall of golden crystal, a defense they believe is more than enough to handle this creature. But the gray-haired girl can only watch in absolute terror as their plan backfires instantly. The so-called ultimate shield, their strongest defense, is obliterated in a single, contemptuous strike. His confidence evaporates as he stares at the empty space where his arm used to be. A brutal wake-up call. Finally grasping the reality of their situation, he grabs the girl, screaming that he'll cover their retreat. He shoves her towards safety with a pained grin, insisting he can still fight with his remaining hand. As they flee, another student grimly clutches a fallen comrade's bloody hat, the horrifying truth dawning on them all. This is a monster that even the strongest can't survive. One of the students declares it's time for a final gamble, suggesting they throw their strongest fighters into the fray. Another agrees with grim determination. It's their duty to fight, even if it means none of them make it out alive. The others turn to their injured senior, asking her to give the order for one last, desperate stand. She looks at her brave, foolish friends with a sad smile, acknowledging that they might all die here today. With a sharp command, she rallies them for a new strategy. They have to force the invisible beast to reveal itself. A volley of attacks slams into the trees, and a massive spray of blood confirms they've finally drawn first blood. But a panicked shout echoes from the blood-stained entrance of a nearby tunnel. A student screams at someone named Shangguan Kui, questioning if she's lost her mind for rushing in alone. But it's too late. The blue-haired fighter is already deep inside, charging an enemy she can't even see. Her face is a mask of pure resolve, ready to face the invisible horror head-on. But her reckless charge comes at a price, as the invisible beast lands a brutal blow. Blood erupts from her arm, and her comrades can only scream for her to fall back. Just then, reinforcements arrive, led by a scarred veteran who scoffs at her recklessness. Peering into the tunnel, they realize they're trapped. They can't risk splitting up, but the students are their future. And her sacrifice pays off. The beast is finally revealed, a hulking red monstrosity now visible to all. Her female colleague is relieved, believing that now they can simply deduce its weaknesses. But as the creature fully materializes, her confidence evaporates. What is this thing? It's a creature from a bygone era, something that resembles a dinosaur from the ancient world. No, it can't be. It looks exactly like a triceratops, a monster that shouldn't exist. The veteran makes the call, ordering his two subordinates back to save the students, while he prepares to take this beast down for good. The veteran's blood runs cold. If this is a triceratops, then humanity has catastrophically underestimated all monsters. Miles away, Monster Lord paces in his room, feeling a familiar drain. The monster genes are consuming his energy again. He scoffs, deciding if they're going to take from him, he's going to take something right back. He understands the principle. Monsters convert life into energy, and their genes are a treasure trove of that very power. Within his own system, countless parasitic entities are siphoning his life essence away. He knows he can't stop them all, but a wicked idea forms. He can single one of them out. He'll take that single gene, crush it down into raw life energy, and inject it straight into his own mechanical device. And it works. Blue energy crackles as a golden gauntlet materializes over his hand. The feeling is a little different than his usual power, but who cares, as long as it works. This new gauntlet can convert and simulate transcended genes, the perfect tool to accelerate his star chart cultivation. With this new gauntlet, he can simulate a 3-star transcender's power. He focuses his mind, preparing to use that power as a core to evolve his own monster genes. His body erupts, his left arm twisting into a monstrous new form as spikes burst from his skin. The power is immense, accelerating the digestion of his remaining genetic material so fast he's losing control. Outside the room, the girls hear the violent surge of energy, wondering what on earth is happening. But inside his mind, he sneers at the rebellious genes trying to overwhelm him. They are his property. He asserts his dominance, reminding them that rebellion against their master only leads to death. With a final surge of will, he forces his body to obey, pushing the evolution to the 4th stage. Meanwhile, in the forest, a group of battered students finally celebrates. Their painful struggle paid off. The gray-haired girl points their combined assault has successfully bound the invisible monster. A muscular swordsman gathers his strength, golden light flaring around him. His gray-haired partner focuses her own energy, knowing they have only one shot at this. He activates his divine sword star chart, deciding to ignore his body's limits entirely. This had to be it, the single most powerful slash he would ever perform in his life. His body immediately begins to break under the strain, muscles tearing as blood erupts from his skin. With a final roar, he unleashes the massive energy wave, which crashes into something unseen. As his attack lands, the girl reveals her own ace, the myriad sword star chart. Blood streams from her eyes as she channels her ultimate technique. A rain of 1,000 ethereal swords, both crimson and blue, descends from the sky. They were just students, but they were willing to risk it all to finally make this monster visible. Their last gamble, even if they all died, it would be worth it to expose the monster's location. But her conviction shatters as her eyes widen in pure disbelief. Their ultimate, life-sacrificing techniques did absolutely nothing. The forest is untouched. A heavy footstep thunders through the trees, contemptuously ignoring their efforts. She looks down in horror at her fallen comrades. They couldn't even slow the creature down, and suffocating pressure crashes down on them, a power so immense that escape feels impossible. What even is this thing? How could a monster of this magnitude go completely unnoticed? She's suddenly lifted into the air, realizing just how arrogant they had been to think they stood a chance. But then, a new sensation, a spark of life-generating wind. It's too late for her, but maybe. She makes a final, desperate choice, to self-destruct, and buy the others a shred of hope. She channels her remaining life force into a final, desperate technique to blow her friends to safety. Her eye glows with emerald light. Even if just one person survives, she'll accept her fate. But just as she's about to detonate, she feels an impossible force pulling her back from the abyss. Her sacrifice is unceremoniously cancelled as she's yanked backwards by her own braid. A mysterious man in a mask holds her, calmly telling her it's not her time to die yet. She screams at him for interfering as the monster launches its attack. A storm of deadly energy spikes. He remains completely still, and she realizes in horror that he's just doomed them all. They miss their chance. Everyone is about to be torn to pieces. A tidal wave of blue crystalline energy erupts from the ground, rushing to obliterate them. And with a single, outstretched hand, he effortlessly blocks the entire, seemingly unbeatable assault. The entire squad is left speechless, barely able to comprehend what just happened. But their mysterious savior is just as surprised, analyzing the strange energy he just absorbed from the monster. The students stare in awe and confusion, desperately trying to place the identity of this man. And then, he gives them a clue, erupting in a torrent of brilliant blue flames. The braided hair girl's eyes go wide with dawning horror. She knows that power belongs to the infamous blue flame. He turns to her, his eye glowing with an eerie light, acknowledging her recognition of him as a wanted mass murderer. She freezes, realizing their savior is one of the most dangerous criminals in the country. He effortlessly lifts her against a tree, warning her to get her friends away before he decides to eat them too. But his true focus is on the real threat, telling the unseen monster not to get in his way. Behind him, a terrifying beast of pure malice and energy finally reveals its monstrous form. The remaining students can only stare, trying to make sense of the monstrosity before them. But our guy knows exactly what it is, feeling the immense power it had been concealing until now. And he tells them all to get lost. He lays it out cold and simple. They've done all they can, and staying any longer would just be a pointless death. The braided hair girl finally agrees, deciding to evacuate the others, though her mind is still reeling from their savior being the infamous criminal, Blue Flame. But the gray-haired swordswoman doesn't care about his identity. All that matters is that he saved them and is now facing this beast alone. The scene shifts, and we find Ji-yu standing guard outside a room when her brother asks about Shinkun. She cuts him off with a sharp look, ordering him not to ask questions. Shinkun is resting, and absolutely cannot be disturbed. But her warning is too late, as the sound of footsteps echoes up the stairs, heralding an unwelcome visit. 2 men from the school arrive, and the one in front asks why she's outside her own dorm before saying he's looking for Shinkun. He then leans in with a smug grin, revealing that someone saw Shinkun follow her back to her room, and asks her to bring him out. Ji-yu stands firm, telling them Shinkun is resting, but the man in the white suit just smirks, wondering how he could possibly be sleeping. He explains that the Academy has some objections to how this supernova received his reward and needs to ask him some questions personally. The threat is laid bare. Cooperate, or the Academy will cancel his qualification and seize the prize, the artificial, extraordinary device. His partner steps forward, his eyes locking onto her, asking if Shinkun is the one with the answers. She holds her ground, telling them to wait until he wakes, but his not taking no for an answer, patronizingly reminding her that cooperation with the school is a student's obligation. He flashes a predatory grin, assuring her they just need him to show up for a few questions, acting as if it's no big deal. He even tries to frame it as a favor, suggesting if Shinkun is injured, reporting it now would get him immediate treatment. But her friend behind her has heard enough, voicing everyone's suspicion they claim to represent the academy, but no one has ever seen them before. Jiyu's patience snaps. She puts up a hand, her voice dropping to a low growl, warning that anyone who disturbs Shinkun will be disabled. Just then, panicked shouts from below cut through the tension. Someone escaped the dean's deadly assault, but everyone else who went in was annihilated. The students below cry out in shock. The blue flame on the field means that wanted criminal is here. That name catches the attention of the man in the white suit, his expression hardening. He turns back to Jiyu, his voice laced with venom, chiding her for obstructing them while the dean fights for their lives. His eyes narrow with suspicion, finding it incredibly strange that she's being so fiercely protective. Unfazed, Jiu asks if he even cares, purple lightning beginning to crackle around her hand. He scoffs, done with the pleasantries. He'll just go in himself, a flicker of red flame igniting on his fingertip. With a sinister laugh, he warns her not to blame him if she gets hurt, as their powers flare up across the hallway. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the braided hair student thinks back on everything she knows about the blue flame. He's the thief, the killer, but also the rogue who pulled her braid. None of it makes any sense. But one thing is certain. He saved her and her students, and she has no intention of just abandoning him. She declares her support, knowing she can at least deflect the monster's flames to give him a chance. Tapping into her Wind Dragon star chart, she unleashes a powerful technique, Wind Howl. A concentrated blast of wind energy slams into the monster's fiery breath, creating the opening he needs. And in that instant, he's already there, dodging the attack and ripping into the monster's face with his bare hand. She can only watch, stunned by the sheer power of this 4-star transcender, who wields the same blue flames as his enemies. He's tearing them apart in close combat, a feat that goes far beyond simple physical strength. He turns to her, his voice dripping with annoyance, threatening to use her as bait if she's going to be a liability. Just then, a new, far more powerful monster manifests, throwing them both back as she insists she's here to help. Furious at his dismissal, she snaps that he's still a crude rascal and shouldn't underestimate her. She can make him fly. He glances back in confusion, as a gale swirls around him, a technique she calls wind travels. With a surge of green energy, she lifts him high into the sky, soaring above the tree line. She proudly declares that up here, they have the advantage, since the monster can't fly, but he just glances back, coldly remarking that while her wind power is impressive, he doesn't remember her. She must have died early. Furious, she can't believe he's cursing her, but he's already onto the plan. Throw him into the monster's mouth. As a massive tentacle whips through the air, she calls him a wanted madman. He simply kicks off her windstream, using her as a springboard to dive straight towards the beast. He plummets headfirst towards the monster's gaping, energy-filled maw. She manages to redirect the wind just enough, and he gives a silent nod of approval for her control. Without a trace of fear, he plunges directly down its throat. A moment later, a brilliant beam erupts from within as he notes his evolution is proceeding perfectly. Deep within the monster, he feels his power stabilizing strong enough now to pierce a 4th-rank beast's flesh. The wind user can only stare, as a gaping hole is carved through the creature's head, baffled by his bizarre fighting style. But the attack didn't kill it. It only made the creature impossibly furious. Its eyes blaze with a terrifying primal hatred. With an earth-shaking roar, the monster begins to thrash in a chaotic, destructive frenzy. She throws up a barrier of wind, barely defending against the rampaging limbs. A horrifying thought crosses her mind. This isn't a counterattack. It's a death rage. The entire forest is torn asunder by the sheer force of the berserk creature. Blue energy erupts from its wounds as it continues its blind rampage. Other students nearby are crushed by the immense pressure, realizing in terror that this is a true 4th-rank monster. But it's not just one monster. An immense, invisible pressure descends from 3 directions at once. The student cries out as the crushing weight brings her to her knees. Hidden in the trees, our boy isn't fazed. He senses something more, the distinct aura of a king. He can feel the royal power lurking within these shadowy beasts. And while everyone else panics, a wicked smile spreads across his face. This is going to be fun. The girl plummets, her head splitting with pain, as the royal aura directly attacks her gene chain. She frantically tries to muster her own transcendent power to fight back against the disruption. For a brief moment, she succeeds, her energy flaring as she stabilizes her own core. But her fall is broken by something massive, soft, and glowing with malevolent red light. Trapped on the monster's face, she knows she can't escape, deciding to take an eye before she dies. But elsewhere, another fighter is caught, dark tendrils wrapping around her limbs. She struggles, cursing the monster and trying to muster her wind explosion. But her power fizzles out. She still can't fully control the transcendent genes within her. As the creature's massive jaw descends, all she can feel is her own powerlessness. In another part of the city, a boy frantically tries to free his sister from the rubble. She begs him to leave her, to not waste his time, but he promises he'll save her. Suddenly, a hulking monster appears right behind them, its shadow falling over the terrified kids. The boy can only stare, frozen in fear as tears stream down his face. His sister screams, watching the beast loom over them, but then their father leaps into action. He throws a desperate punch to protect his children, only for the monster's teeth to sink deep into his arm. A single, desperate thought cuts through the chaos, a promise to cross worlds for someone he misses. And just like that, he's there, a hooded savior holding back the jaws of death from a helpless girl. She stares up in disbelief, recognizing the figure who just saved her life. The girl screams at him, asking what he's trying to prove, and telling him to run before he gets eaten too. But he just looks down, coolly asking why she even cares what happens to him. She's left completely speechless by his cold, detached demeanor. Then, without warning, he grabs her and hurls her away, offering her up as bait. A furious scream rips through the air as she flies through the forest. Landing amidst a swirl of green energy, she curses him for being such a scumbag. But it was all a test. He now understands the difference between the monster's attack and feeding states. He coolly informs the beast that it's too late. His own tentacles have already invaded its entire esophagus. The monster might be big, he mocks, but his appendages are far tougher. An agonized roar echoes as the creature's own throat erupts with his searing blue energy. Watching from afar, the girl screams for that scumflame to be careful. The monster's maw snaps shut, trying desperately to chew and swallow the source of its pain. But he's completely unfazed, calmly unleashing his next attack. Black teeth, chaos stab. Vicious spikes of pure energy erupt from within the beast, tearing its massive body apart from the inside. She's left speechless, realizing his blue flames are exploding wildly throughout the monster's body, a truly impressive sight. As its power coalesces, he reaches out with his glowing hand, ready to devour the spoils. A predatory glint fills his eyes. It's time to taste the power of a lord. The monster's energy swirls violently as he moves to claim his prize, but he senses its tactic, sacrificing its massive body to save its core. How predictable. From the wreckage, a smaller, more concentrated beast emerges, charging with a furious roar. Just then, the braided hair girl dives in from above, ready to unleash her own power to help. He effortlessly catches her mid-air, annoyed by the interruption, and asking if she wants to be bait. Shoving her aside, he tells the stubborn girl to stop getting in his way. But her desperate eyes trigger a memory, her father's gentle hand, urging his children to escape. His final words echo in her mind, a tearful plea for her to stay alive, no matter what. Seeing that familiar pain, his irritation vanishes, replaced by a flicker of understanding. She's left completely speechless, shocked that this ruthless stranger actually stopped to listen. Her face practically cracks under the weight of pure, unadulterated humiliation. Flustered, she screams that this is all too annoying, and she is absolutely out of here. As she flees, a man in a white mask yells for her to stop any other reckless students from interfering. Our hero just watches her go, a single, strange thought crossing his mind. Daddy? Meanwhile, the girl is still airborne, wishing she could just curl up and die from the embarrassment. But that shame quickly morphs into a blush as she realizes her little streamer heart might be in love. Elsewhere, a young master named Fan is being advised to retreat from the academy. But Fan refuses, explaining he needs to confirm the identity of the blue flame user for his uncle. His real goal is revealed. He wants to capture the rare blue flame gene chain to break his own power limits, and his plan is already in motion, as he confronts Jiu with a sneer, claiming her power is nothing special. Fan patronizingly admits her talent is exceptional, but she's only been transcendent for a short time. He correctly deduces she's exhausted her energy from the competition and won't be recovering anytime soon. But, before he can act, a protective classmate steps in, calling him out for hiding something behind his back. With a smirk, Fan reveals what he was hiding, his hand crackling with the Crimson Flame Palms technique. The student tells him to stop lingering, but Fan just mocks his courage for daring to step up to him. Then, with a flick of his wrist, he unleashes a devastating wave of crimson fire down the hallway. The would-be hero and his friends are instantly engulfed, blown away by the sheer force of the blast. The inferno spreads, consuming the entire corridor in a torrent of scorching heat. Fan explains his master plan. His fire element traps them both, consuming the very air she needs. Jiyu's power flickers weakly as she realizes the horrifying truth: he's suffocating her lightning at its source. He mocks her, explaining that without power, she is absolutely nothing. His overwhelming fire aura pins her down, a clear declaration that she can't stop him. He patronizingly advises her to give up, warning that his flames will eventually burn her to a crisp. She's too weak, unable to generate enough electricity to counter his crimson flame palms. But in a moment of clarity, her fingers find the cold metal of the hallway railing. A flicker of purple energy sparks to life, conducting power directly from her surroundings. Suddenly, a massive discharge of lightning erupts, stunning Fan and blasting his flames back. His arrogant expression shatters into disbelief. How can she still absorb external electricity? Jiyu stands tall, crackling with renewed power, comparing her situation to a drowning person finding air. All she needs is the slightest contact with a source, and she can channel its power directly into her body. And her power-up isn't going unnoticed. Alarms scream at the Extermination Bureau headquarters. Elsewhere, the heads of the Fan family discuss their ultimate goal, a qualitative transformation through transcended genes. But Jiyu isn't concerned with their philosophy. She unleashes the full might of her magnetic star. He just smirks, seeing her as a mere defective product in the face of his family's superiority. To a true transcendent like him, she's just another flawed specimen to be purged. A tidal wave of crimson flame erupts from his hands, intent on melting her away. The hallway explodes as raw lightning and infernal fire clash violently. She stands her ground, her purple energy forming a desperate shield against his overwhelming power. But she knows that last move cost a city block's worth of electricity, and she needs a better plan. A new idea sparks a smaller, concentrated satellite of her magnetic star power. He can't believe it. She's improvising with a legendary star chart in the middle of their fight. His pride as a hailed genius crumbles. How dare this defective product never take him seriously? His mind flashes back to his family's secret research, centered on a glowing artifact. His uncle had explained their ultimate goal: to integrate the eternal flame into their genes. This was the key to breaking the 90% barrier and resonating with the eternal flower. The original plan was for his father to ascend first, for safety's sake. But the young master's sly smile revealed his own ambition to seize that power. Now, facing her, he sees his chance. He casually pops her magnetic satellite like a balloon. If he integrates her blue flame and the eternal flower now, he can achieve his own breakthrough. The three fighters are separated by floors, as he feels the first palpitations of his evolution. As the ground itself trembles, an eruption of malevolent blue energy floods the school grounds. Students collapse, clutching their heads as an immense psychic pressure descends upon them all. Young Master Fan smirks, telling his aide that the monsters are in a frenzy, and there's no need to help. These students are already dead. With a final command, he turns his back on Jiyu and the chaos, choosing to save himself. But the other students are stopped in their tracks by an injured classmate, who warns them they'll only be a burden out there. With cold determination, she resolves to face this blue-colored scum herself. Elsewhere, the teacher Ching Che strains against his own containment spell, screaming that he can't hold it back any longer. He watches in horror as the three invisible monsters fuse into one horrifying, unified creature. Its aura is immense, a suffocating pressure that he instantly recognizes. This is the same presence as the legendary 5-stage monster that nearly wiped out all the elites. A teacher desperately yells for his student, Lin Chi, to retreat from the forest, screaming that the mission is over. But the young man just smirks, convinced he's going to die anyway. If he's going down, hell, at least buy them some time. But a hand on his shoulder stops him cold. A voice tells him it's not too late. Before he can even register the words, a flash of cyan light erupts, and his world goes dark. The teacher stares in absolute horror as his student is impaled against a tree, wondering who that was and why a wanted criminal just tried to save them. Our masked protagonist pays him no mind, his eyes locked on the darkness. So that's what they were up to, a fusion evolution. A cold realization washes over him. These things are evolving into a 5th-stage monster, and they're doing it by consuming the very power he granted them. The beast reveals its colossal form. One of the other agents quickly erects an earthly prison, trapping the monster in a cage of rock and fire. But the prison shatters like glass. The teachers can only watch, horrified, as their best efforts are brushed aside like nothing. With the situation spiraling, the teachers swallow their pride, offering to forget his wanted status if he'll just help them. Our hero just gives them a look. Oh, so now you want to be friends? He can't help but find their desperation amusing. Suddenly, the monster's brutal assault is stopped dead in its tracks by a wall of writhing, glowing vines. And there he is, Headmaster Ching, descending from the sky, his wood-based art springing to life. With a roar of growth, The vines explode outwards, completely engulfing and trapping the colossal beast. But even the headmaster is straining. His technique won't last long, and he yells for backup to strike now. Just then, a voice calls out, telling him to wait for the perfect moment as a new fighter leaps into the fray. Her eyes blaze with power as she prepares her ultimate technique, the water dragon. With a single, devastating slash, she brings a torrent of pure energy crashing down on the trapped monster. It works! The beast recoils, wounded for the first time, and the teachers finally see a flicker of hope. Headmaster Ching is ecstatic, realizing that with Shangguan-ku and the mysterious blue flame user, they finally have a shot. He quickly forms a strategy. The two of them will lead the charge, while the rest of the teachers provide support. The other teachers roar in agreement, ready to lay down their lives to protect their comrades. Just as their plan is set, the colossal beast lunges forward, its rows of jagged teeth ready to devour them all. But before anyone can move, our hero grabs Shangguan-ku's arm. Annoyed they decided to include him without even asking. He casually shoves her aside, telling her to stay back. She can't handle the transcendent power of a true lord. The other teachers can only watch in shock as he completely hijacks their meticulously crafted plan. With his hand glowing with that signature blue energy, he warns everyone not to stand in his way. He leaps directly into the monster's path, deciding it's finally time to show off what he can really do. To stop the apocalypse, his strength alone won't be enough. He needs to show them true power. He declares it's time to unleash the true power of a fourth-stage monster. The teachers are blasted back by a terrifying aura they can barely comprehend. Shangguan-ku watches in disbelief. His power is even greater than the monster's. Even the old master Ching Che is shaken, recognizing a power that defies all logic. His body twists and transforms, becoming something far more monstrous than the beast itself. The colossal creature roars, calling him a traitor, but our hero couldn't care less. He simply ignites his hand, unleashing his signature attack, the Lord's Flame. With a deafening crash, he smashes his blazing fist right into the monster's maw. The beast screams in agony as the divine blue fire consumes its very essence. He lands effortlessly on its hide, having completely dominated the battlefield in seconds. But he isn't finished. He channels his power for one final, devastating blow. A skull explosion erupts from within, a massive detonation of pure blue energy. The teachers watch in awe, but Shangguan-ku notices something is terribly wrong. The wound that should have been fatal is already closing as the monster regenerates. His divine blue flames are literally pushed out as the creature's flesh knits itself back together. She can only stare in disbelief at the beast's impossible vitality. He reappears beside her, perfectly calm, and begins to explain the grim reality. This thing has high attack, high defense, and a king's self-healing ability, and there are more. Even the old master Ching Che is shaken to his core by this revelation. His composure finally cracks as he asks in dread, just how many are we talking about? But Shangguan-ku isn't ready to give up, pleading that they can still cooperate and find a glimmer of hope. He just closes his eyes, his glowing aura flaring as he shuts her down completely. There's no need for that, because He's not here to cooperate. He's here to teach them how to defeat these monsters. His words echo with terrifying weight. If they want to protect this world, they must become stronger than he is. And with that, he unleashes a torrent of energy, commanding them to understand what a domain truly is. A tidal wave of incandescent blue flame erupts, a power that feels less like an attack and more like reality itself bending. The other teachers can only stare in utter disbelief, the same word echoing in their minds. A domain? He reveals the source of his power. He's burning his monster genes, using the souls of past lives to unleash this ultimate move. Shangguan-ku finds herself caught within the brilliant blue light, not harmed, but completely submerged. In an instant, his domain has expanded, engulfing every single one of them. Lin Chi is the first to feel the chilling truth of this new reality. He realizes with dawning horror that the very metal element in the air has been completely devoured. But the old master, Ching Che, corrects him with grim certainty. It's not just the metal. Every single element has been consumed, leaving only their enemy's power, and he warns them to seal their own energy tight. The other teachers are paralyzed, feeling utterly helpless in a world where he is the supreme ruler. But Shangguan-ku cuts them off, telling them there's no point in thinking about escape, because there's nowhere to run. From the moment his domain enveloped them, they were already trapped inside the monster's mouth. And there it is, the true form of his power, the colossal fused monster, wreathed in his master's terrifying blue flames. The scarred teacher can only stare in disbelief at the impossible sight before him. This unbelievably powerful monster, it's not attacking them, it's trying desperately to escape its own master. Even this beast can't escape. The very edges of the domain are like teeth, ready to devour anything that gets close. His chilling voice echoes through the fiery space, mocking the monster and the three trapped teachers. They can only watch in horror as the colossal creature is finally caught by its own master's power. The Flamehand teacher panics, the terrible realization sinking in. There's truly no way out. And to make matters worse, the very walls of this fiery prison are slowly contracting. The blue flames roar to life, intensifying with every passing second. The teachers murmur amongst themselves, describing this place as a fiery hell that consumes monsters. The scarred teacher is so captivated he even muses on what to call this ultimate technique, perhaps the devouring inferno. But Qingche sharply rebukes him, telling him to stop sighing and learn from this rare display of absolute power. Below, the monster lord stands impassively as his domain's flames burn faster than his creation can possibly heal. But as Qingche watches, a chilling sense of familiarity washes over him. His mind flashes back 20 years, to the final, cataclysmic battle against the monsters. He recalls witnessing a legendary 5-star monster's ultimate attack that day. From a distance, he couldn't see it clearly, but now the memory is undeniable. The blue flame domain that wiped out humanity's strongest is identical to the one before him now. Yet, this absolute power has a price. Monster Lord is starving, his own technique draining him dry. He turns his gaze to his creation, deciding it will become the fuel he desperately needs. The fused monster can only shriek in disbelief, questioning how a 4th-stage user could wield a 5th-rank domain. Monster Lord offers only a cold, mocking glare, telling it to guess. Then, the monster realizes the horrifying truth. This power was never his, but a gift from the king. The fused monster roars in defiance, screaming that this power is not his to take. It makes one last, desperate plea, refusing to become fuel for its creator. But Monster Lord coolly informs it that its opinion doesn't matter, his glowing eye promising a feast. With a single word, he unleashes the devouring inferno upon his own creation. The teachers below can only stare in absolute awe at the spectacle. A colossal pillar of azure flame erupts, piercing the sky above the academy. From a nearby balcony, Jiyu watches, her mind struggling to process the scene. The other students are equally stunned, recognizing the legendary blue flames with disbelief. Miles away, a speeding car screeches to a sudden halt, its occupant having seen the impossible light. The man in the white suit stares intently at the distant pillar of light. He remarks on the terrifying aura, musing that such power would be an incredible learning tool for his students. His driver urges him to hurry back, as the academy will need to be rebuilt and there may be few survivors. But the young master is lost in thought, his expression turning grim. Back at the epicenter, Monster Lord catches his breath, feeling the strain of his power. He laments that he nearly starved, only to immediately over-engorge himself on the monster's core. But there's no time to rest. He stomps his foot, channeling the raw power of a king. Blue energy crackles across the ground as he begins to draw upon a new strength. With this immense power, he will become something else, entirely an earth dragon.